And then eventually you say something and then the person's like, fuck, I never thought of that before. And I'm like, yes, I had to go back 12 or 13 years to like bring up what you're thinking about right now so I could at least have a conversation with you right now. I'm not saying this to talk shit, but this is what it is most of the time, guys. I have to go back in time. I had a guy who's working on one of my newer mechanisms that I'm working on at Project Function, and he comes in and he's like a kettlebell guy. And he's working on the machines, and he's like, yeah, he's like, I kind of like some of the stuff that you guys are doing in here, but not. And it might take you another 10 years to be able to catch up to where I was, whatever, maybe like 12 years ago, maybe 13 years ago. I keep evolving, guys. And it's not to judge. It's not for me to like say, hey, you know, like this guy isn't stupid because he doesn't like see things the way that I do or at the level that I do. I'm not trying to engage like that. That's not where I'm coming from. Maybe I am. Maybe I'm just being an arrogant pig. What I'm saying is this, though, guys, is that when I actually begin to engage with people on this subject matter, they're just like, they become bewildered. They get exposed. That's why they don't want to bring it up to me. They'll say, Naudi has this wrong. And I'm like, why don't you bring it up to me directly? Let's get into the DMs. And why don't you try doing it on good faith? On good faith. I've reached out to very prolific figures in this industry, right? And I write up a whole paragraph politely just saying, hey, I want to lead everything up to this one question. Like, let's say there's a very prolific figure that's out there who believes that essentially dysfunction is normal on the body. So I engage with this individual. I send them an email, well thought out. It's respectful. I make sure everything is oriented through respect, like because the person deserves respect if they're taking consideration. They'll look at my email and they won't get back. They'll just avoid it. If I hit them up again about some other topic, they'll discuss it. But the second I begin to say, hey, look, are we walking, talking distortions based upon the idea that we are machines dysfunctionally responding to the environment? They won't even engage with it. They won't even fucking touch it. Because let me put it this way, guys. It's like, I won't even go down that because I don't even think it's fully relevant for the audience that I'm speaking on right here. Let me go up. I'm gonna go up. There's a few of you commenting. Let me make sure I go up. So Tariq, you wrote, sometimes you speak so honest and broadly, and then I feel personally attacked and realize you don't even know me. The facts are facts, man. Thanks for spitting knowledge. Always checks my ego. Like the thing is that it's like people so desperately want to be right. And the reason that they want to be right all comes back to them not wanting to change. They want their current hypothesis to work for everything that they do. So for me, I want to be right, so I know what I got to work on next. That's why I want to be right. For most people, let me simplify it for you guys. For most people, when they want to be right, they want to be right so they don't have to work anymore or continue to change. That's kind of summarizes it as well as I see it. I don't want to be right so I can stop learning. I want to be right so I can continue to keep learning and continue to keep changing. Because I know that if I'm more correct about something, that there's literally, like, one of the things that I'll say is that the second that I invent something, because at this point I have hundreds of inventions, okay? I have hundreds. The second I invent something, I could probably have like 500 inventions right now. But I've just thrown out all the stuff that's not going to be, I'm making sure that I invent things that are actually going to be useful, but I could have over like 500. But if I invent something, the second I invent it, I say, what's wrong with it? What part of this is redundant? What part of this is actually going to give a significant benefit? What part of it is beneficial and what part of it is not beneficial? What part of it is actually counterproductive? When you're trying to fix people, you understand that you never do what's right? You do what's less wrong. That's the whole thing to learn here, is that things are less wrong. I don't think people are stupid, and I've said this for the longest time. I do think that people are lazy. I think biology is intrinsically lazy. It's not programmed to work. Like nature, it operates at a certain pace. Like to be able to keep up with, Like, let's say, for example, if you're on the savannah and you have to compete with cheetahs who run at like 60, 70 miles per hour, leopards who probably run like at 50 miles per hour, who can climb trees effortlessly. You got to compete against like chimpanzees and lions, wildebeests, elephants, all these animals, right? You have to compete with all the hyenas, wild dogs. You have to compete with all these animals. Imagine the speed at which your thinking has to operate in order to be able to compete with all these lethal animals that are everywhere. Imagine that, right? And then imagine the pace. Like, there's a speed, and then there's a pace that you have to be able to keep up with to survive. In life, this is what life is. This is how it works. Life operates at a specific speed, right? And not everybody can keep up. And the way that I talk, the way that I engage says, hey guys, let's get you up to speed with the speed of life. Let me get you up to speed with how fast life works. Because if you aren't fast, the person's dysfunction when you're training them is going to accelerate past your... Let me see if I can explain this correctly. The pace of the dysfunction is going to exceed the speed of your correction. So not everybody wants that. But oftentimes what people do want, and people that are into rhetoric, people that are into hyperbole, what they will say is, hey, look, let's forget about the speed of reality and having to have enough tools to be able to deal with the speed and the demands of reality. Let's forget about that. And instead, what I'm going to do is just throw that all out the window and just say, hey, look, just do this and this and this, and then your problems are mostly solved. Look, Naudi was teaching it wrong, and so were the HBS practitioners that are teaching you this stuff. They are wrong. I'm actually better because of X, Y, and Z, even though I don't provide any results, and even though I can't really like duplicate what I do. This is the whole thing, guys. A great practitioner is going to... The way that you can determine whether a practitioner is going to be great is very simple, right? If you're... Let's say I am going to train somebody for the first time. The first time that I train this individual, I'm going to have all this new stuff to throw at them, right? But then after a given period of time, if I'm still working with them, let's say I have a client, right? Let's say I have a client and I've had them for, let's say, a week. In that first week, they're like, man, this guy knows so much. He has all this new stuff. That's amazing. But if you've been working with them for about 2 months, they're going to get to know you. They're going to understand how you operate. And then eventually what they're going to realize is that you may not know that much, and that you're not that capable of changing, and that you're going to hit a plateau. It's very easy to sound really smart and to really know your shit on the first session, the second session, the third session, fourth session, even all the way up to the 10th session, you can sound smart. But when you get to session 11, 12, 13, 50, session 1000, that's when you're going to find out how good you actually are. And I'm the kind of guy that I believe, I have to say, after all these years, I could be relevant on session 1000. If I have to keep up with the guy like Puni Pagoa, who's doing all this grappling and jiu-jitsu, and I have to find a way to insert myself into what he's doing to make myself relevant towards what he's doing, in order for me, I have to keep up. I've had to keep up with guys like fucking Kyle Dake or Johnny Eblin, right? I have to keep up with these guys, right? I have to keep up with professional athletes that are dealing with so many different dimensional demands on them. It's extremely complicated, guys. Extremely complicated. So look, if somebody's saying, hey, look, the way that functional patterns is doing things is wrong or whatever the fuck, if they don't have more stuff after the 20th or 30th hour, you're wasting your fucking time. I'm telling you, these individuals don't know shit. So if you have somebody that's telling you to put your head over your foot or to bow out your knees or some shit like that, or you have somebody who was in functional patterns who's insisting that I do things wrong or that people in functional patterns do things wrong, if they're saying this probably for the first 5 to 10 sessions. And then you're going to realize, oh, this person doesn't know what the fuck they're talking about. They plateaued. They're done. And what ends up happening, guys, is that people go and listen to these fuckers. They make things awkward and they say, oh, now he's out of his fucking mind. I don't want to have to spend all that money on these HBS courses, and I don't want to regiment myself to the same fundamental principles as they do. Otherwise, I just look like a blind follower. That's what I look like. And so they say, I'm going to go out to this person that seems to be more independent in their fucking thinking. They go do it, and what ends up happening? That ossified caste that they have never gets better. And then they're like, fuck. A few years later, I see them liking my fucking posts. I see them liking my comments. I see them DMing me. And it's all good. Guys, if you come back, it's all good. I'm not tripping or whatever. It's awkward, man. If you, let me put it this way. If you're one of these people that judges people in functional patterns, right? Because they trust me, somebody who's been at this motherfucker for 15 fucking years, right? Who's continued to evolve over and over again, who has all these inventions, all these accolades, after all these fucking results. If you're going to criticize somebody because they're going to say, hey, look, I'm going to give Naudi the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to give this guy the benefit of the doubt. If you're going to criticize them for doing that and say, you know what, I'm going to go be an independent thinker myself. And then you end up being wrong. You end up being wrong. And then you have to come back. And then you got to look at these people in the fucking face. You better believe, hey, bro, I was being, you have to at least come to them and say, hey, bro, I was being a fucking arrogant prick. I probably should have given Naudi a little bit more time and given functional patterns a little bit more time to showcase what it does before criticizing it the way that I did. It makes things really fucking awkward. But I just think that this is part of the process, guys. I think that there's people that come into functional patterns that are like, ooh, this is amazing. But then they're like, they get those voices that are in their head. They're like, I don't want to be a blind sheep, though. I don't want to feel like I'm somebody who's just like fucking adhering to what Naudi says or whatever because it's so limiting or whatever the fuck it may be. I don't want to hear that because I want to be able to do things under my own accord. Dude, do them. I tell people all the time. I'm like, look, guys, if you want to experiment with pull-ups and calisthenics and all that shit, go ahead and do that. I had one guy that was complaining, saying, Naudi, what was it? I think it was a few weeks ago. He's like, Naudi, you don't let other people experiment with things. I'm like, bro, experiment. He was an FP before, and I'm like, bro, experiment. Like, I'm not, like, fucking experiment. Like, the world is yours. If you want to go do a bunch of push-ups and you want to go do back squats and deadlifts, bro, it's your body. Just don't post it on a functional patterns page. If you have a functional patterns Instagram page, don't post it there because that's not what we're promoting. I don't buy into that shit. I think that stuff is a waste of time. And if you're going to be connected to my company, those are first principles that I don't agree with. And I have obvious reasons to explain why that's the case. And I'm not being hyperbolic when I say it either. I'm not just trying to convince people otherwise just because to get them to buy my 10-week online course or to do the training that I do. We're going to load, don't get me wrong, guys, we're going to load the longitudinal axis. But it's like there's ways of going about it. Doing back squats is not the way to fucking do it, neither are deadlifts. But if you want to experiment, it's your body. Nobody's forcing you to do anything. We're just simply saying that, hey, look, if you're going to do that, for one, you don't understand what the hell we're trying to do, and we're not trying to mix in. Let me put it this way. If you do back squats or deadlifts, you're going to erase most of your progress doing that dumb shit. You're going to compress your spine. And if you don't compress your spine, you're going to compress your hips or something else on your body. It's an inevitability, as far as I'm concerned. And so it's not going to work. But if you want to do that stuff, then by all means, just don't post about it on your social media page. Look, guys, let me break things down very, very basically, in a very basic way. If somebody's had to get certified through my methodology to be able to even come up with something, it's not to say that they can't come up with something relevant, but I'm just telling you this much. I'll just tell you how it is. And like people that have been around me for a long time, like there's a reason that the people that are the closest to me have the most respect for me. There's a reason for it. If you've seen me work and you've seen how I have to make adaptations, when you've seen it, then you're like, oh, damn, there's a box, right? And I tell people, look, guys, here's the box. And I tell you guys, if I run an HBS course, I'm like, look, guys, here's the box. This is the box I'm putting you in. But you have to be in this box for a while. so you can become coherent in it before you decide to experiment with other things. Practice what's in this box for the next 6 months, and then go do some kickboxing or whatever, or go do boxing, or go fucking maybe dabble a little bit into jiu-jitsu or wrestling or something like that, or go throw a ball, fucking whatever. Go play some basketball, right? But I tell people directly, here's the box. I'm going to keep you in this box right now, but it's a box, right? And I show them the things that are there, right? But the whole thing is, it's like there's boxes, there's like layers to these boxes, right? And they just keep going further and further. And what people that are around me continuously see me do is me just break from, one thing that I'm good at, I guess, one thing that I'm okay at is that if I get into a box, I know how to get out of that box, right? I know how to get out of a box. Most of these people that would criticize me, guys, I'll just tell you guys point blank, right? They'll put you in a box. Right? They're going to put you in a box. There it is. Here's the box. And they're not going to tell you that they're putting you into a box, because I think they're aware that they're in a box, but they don't want to make you think that you're being put into a box, but they're putting you into a fucking box. And when you get put into that box and you never move out of it, this is where entropy gets you. And the difference between myself and them is that I can break through the boxes over and over and over, and I just keep getting to the next layers and next layers over and over again. Oh my God. Oh. I'm eventually going to break through this damn box to the point where it's going to be completely undeniable. I think some of the shit that people are going to see at Project Function are going to be like, wow, this is fucking undeniable. I think people already see it and they're like, dude, this is undeniable. I think my reputation is cemented at this point. Possibly what I'm doing right now is engaging in a fucking redundancy. But my position is cemented at this point in this industry. But that's not my objective. I don't care about being like, entropy is still disassembling my ass. The chaos of the universe is still disassembling me at a faster rate than I can actually reassemble myself. So I need to hurry the fuck up. Entropy is operating at that speed, and I'm like still down here. And I need to learn fast so I can catch up at the speed of entropy, if you guys get what I mean. And so, like I said, guys, I put you into a box, but I tell you that I'm putting you into a box because there's another layer of the box that you got to get outside of. But before you can learn to walk, you got to learn how to stand. That's just how it is. And before you can learn how to run, you got to learn how to walk. That's just how, it's like if you want to do, there's a progression to things, right? There's a progression to things. I can't tell you to play like Stevie Ray Vaughan if you can't even like strum the guitar rhythmically. It's not going to work. It's just not going to work. I won't call it a linear progression, but there is a progressive cycle. And to some degree, in some capacities, it is fairly linear for a lot of people. But what I'm simply just saying, guys, basically, is that for all the judgments that these individuals would place upon me, what's important to note is that they don't even have discussions with me. If they had a position of disagreement, right? If they're going to say this shit about me and say that I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about, wouldn't the smartest thing to do, wouldn't the smartest thing that you could do be to bring it up to me directly and question me directly to prove that I'm wrong? So then you could say, hey, look, Naudi was completely unaware of this fucking thing. I've had people, and you have to realize this too, guys. I had people over 10 years ago try to do this shit with me in the back in the day. And they'd be like, well, Naudi, do you realize that the diaphragm does this? Do you realize that you can't just pull your abdomen in all the time? And I'm like, yeah, I understand that, bro. You can't just keep your fucking abdomen fully braced all the time. You got to train it at some point. You have to retract the abdominal wall. You want to know why? Because if there's such a thing as protracting the abdominal wall, then guess what's the opposite of that? Retracting it. And if somebody's extremely fucking bloated, then that means that their abdominal walls, if they're bloated, their abdominal wall is going to distend. And at some point, you're going to probably have to cue that individual to retract their abdominal wall. And in most instances, people are dealing with bloating. And then people will be like, yeah, you're telling people to suck their navels. And I'm like, no, That's not actually it. There's a difference between pulling your navel in, which you can't. I usually say navel in because it's a faster way of saying it, but I would say retract your lower abdominal wall. But I don't obsess over it. That's kind of like the whole thing. I'm like, hey, look, here's something that I'm working on. Let me teach it for a little bit, and then I move on to something else. But I had people tell me this shit like over a decade ago. Time and Lewis Ellery writes, haha, preach. Every FP hater assumes that's the only cue ever used. Lewis, you wonder, like, guys, this is a cue that I've been using like fucking 15 years ago. What is it? It's 2025. Yeah, like 15 years ago is when I first started, like probably before that. But I've been doing different things throughout my career. But like when you're dealing with somebody who's engaging in hyperbole, they don't steal. Like there's a difference between straw manning a person and steel manning a person. Okay, when you straw man them, what you do is you take either their worst arguments or you misconstrue their best arguments to make it. You skew what their argument is to make it look ridiculous, and then essentially you convince other people that argument that you never made is what they should hold you to. So that's they'll say, hey, this is what Naudi says. And I'm like, I never said that. You're fucking gaslighting. And they're like, but this is what he said. And I'm like, I never said that. You're completely gaslighting me. And you're gaslighting the individual that you're talking to. And so I try and make it a point to steel man people's positions. I don't straw man people. I take people's best argument, and I think that's part of the reason why I'm not necessarily like the most liked person, or I don't have the best reputation, is because I take your best arguments. I like to take people's best arguments. Let me put it this way, guys. I don't go for low-hanging fruit. I go for all the stuff that's at the very top of the tree because it's the most ripe. It's the one that the sun hits first. And it's usually some of the best tasting fruit. So I go to the stuff that's at the very top of the tree. I'm that kind of person. And I'm this kind of guy. The people that stick into FP, that run FP facilities and whatnot, they go to the top of the tree. That's why they come over. That's why they come to me. I don't bring in the people that like the fruit at the bottom of the fucking tree. They don't like that. They don't like low-hanging fruit. So what I would suggest to anybody that's watching this, I wouldn't even suggest this for people that are wanting to engage in whenever they make like, oh, why I'm not an FP anymore or some shit like that, when they make their fucking videos. My whole thing's that I'm like, okay, it's like, hey, look, guys, it's like you're dog whistling people that are like, here's my dog whistle for all the fucking people that are pearl clutching whenever Naudi says something that goes. Whenever Naudi says something that questions the way that they view the world. Like the dog whistling is what I find to be like the most ridiculous part, but it always happens. It always fucking happens. And these are never good arguments, and you never end up really seeing anything on the backside that compares to what the fuck I'm going to do. Who knows? Maybe they will. Maybe one of these days, one of these guys will prove me wrong. But so far, I haven't seen anything even remotely come close to it. This happens all the time, by the way, guys. It's like a bi-yearly. I think that's how you would say it. Like biannual. Yeah, biannual. Like, hey, here's my fucking. Let me dog whistle to all the people that are fucking mad at Naudi or whatever the fuck right now, and that are going to be mad at him forever for whatever reason, who just can't simply say, hey, man, I was wrong. You know what I mean? And the hardest part of all this is, like, the most difficult part is that it's going to look more and more ridiculous over time. The further that time passes, guys, the more ridiculous you're going to look. And I don't advise that you continue to keep engaging in this way. It's not good. I'm just telling you, it's not good for you. But whatever, people like to do what they like to do. Any questions? Shane DeLange writes, the old I'm leaving FP announcement. Yes. Who's coming with me, man? Who's coming with me? I will say what's fascinating about it is when I see the shit is that it's like yeah, yeah, and everybody's like writing, yeah, it's cringe. It is. It fucking is. What I'll say that's interesting about it is that like I see the tactics over time change because somebody can't just outright be super disrespectful to me. They can't just outright be like, you know what? I'm gonna be a complete asshole and say that Nowdy was completely unhinged and he was completely fucking wrong or that he doesn't know what he's talking about. Because if they say that and then I end up fucking like solving this, what are they gonna look like later on down the line? So they have to play fair. They have to at least come with respect. I find it fascinating because if this was like 10 years ago, they'd just be like, "Oh, now he's fucking batshit crazy. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Don't listen to him." And then they fucking tell me to go screw myself or whatever. But now it's fascinating.
Tale as old
But yeah,
as
Mike,
time.
what's that, brother?
Tale as old as time.
Well, shit, you've been around for a while, seeing it, right, Mike?
You know, it's funny because it's funny. I still consider myself new, but when you look at the long game, I guess now at this point, I could say that I've been around for, because I'm going on 7 years or so. So,
Nine is
but
already 7. Didn't you take my course in 2017?
so I guess that'd be about 8, going on 8.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think it's 8 and maybe going on 9. I
Oh,
think, right?
I'm so bad with time
Me too.
nowadays. It was my
I'm not
birthday
great with it
recently.
either,
I'm like,
bro.
I don't know. I don't even know
I'm too
what
busy
year
looking
I'm in.
forward. I'm too busy looking forward to go backwards. Really,
For
what I end up
sure.
doing is just put a lot of these old posts up just to kind of like remind people, like, hey, look, I've been at this for a while.
Pretty crazy, man. But that was
Raphael,
like,
hold on. So Raphael writes every time I see one of those "Why I Left FP" videos, it's the same collection of people commenting that you blocked over the years. Yeah, it's just, I'm just like, guys, stop. I'm hoping if you're watching this right now, or if you guys can send the message to these individuals right now. Look, dude, I don't have any beefs. You're gonna have to change. There's just no ways around it. You're gonna have to regiment yourself to like better science. Like you have to be more objective in the way that you do it like why not why and guys don't like no talisman don't be looking into more of the drama, just ignore it. It's like it's pointless, it's fucking pointless. Don't get sucked into drama. It's the worst thing that you can do. Like I look at Elon right now and I'm like, dude, he's just allowed himself to get sucked into too much fucking drama. And it's rent like I bought my Rivian. I want to show everybody the Rivian. Got this fucking truck, man. Oh, let me show you this truck. You're gonna get to see it tomorrow, Mike.
I'm
Oh my
fucking
god.
so pumped.
Oh my god, I love this fucking truck. In many regards, I'm kind of glad that Elon lost his mind because now I get to fucking have this thing. Oh, what a beautiful truck. Mm, that's that's a really nice fucking truck, bro. I've been driving
Wow.
this thing. It's so amazing, like for like off-roading. It's fucking incredible, and it actually has a really good range.
Damn.
And so yeah, now I'm pretty much like I'm getting rid of all my Teslas and whatnot, and I'm just rolling in this fucking Rivian, which is super dope. I don't know, maybe,
Yeah,
who knows? Maybe Elon can win me back or some shit later. But honestly, I tried this. I've been driving this fucking Rivian, bro, and it's an amazing automobile. It's really cool.
I've always loved the aesthetic on those.
Yeah, no, it's yeah. Well, the aesthetic is sick, but the functionality of it's actually it pretty much handles like a car because you can lower it, like because it has like a adaptive suspension, so you can just drop it down really low. So if I'm on the highway, I can mob on it if I need to get somewhere quickly or whatever.
Hell
So it's
yeah.
like really good for that.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, man, going back to the whole thing with like, yeah, this fucking like when people dog whistle, I really like that like this freedom of speech thing is kind of like brought about like these terms that describe like tendencies in human behavior. And it's funny to me like the dog whistling that takes place from people. It's like, hey, let's all converge together and around a common enemy. It always seems to be that, man. And I like there's it seems like it never fucking goes away. And you wonder I know what it's going to take in order to get rid of it. I think.
What are you thinking, Nowdy?
I think if I look like Bo Jackson or some shit like that,
Sure.
I think I think that once we get to that place, that's when everybody's just gonna shut up and say, "All right, dude, fair enough, you win." That's gonna kind of be it. So that's what I have to aim for. I still think what people are gonna experience at Project Function is still gonna be like, "What the fuck?"
For
They're gonna.
sure.
The thing is, Mike, I still think it's too ahead of its time, even right now.
Yeah. Yeah,
Not
that's
not for your,
exactly what I would say.
but I'll say this: in your facility, it's not gonna be. I think
Yeah,
people are going to go in there and be like, "Oh my god, this is fucking amazing! Like,
for
what the
sure.
fuck?" For people that have been doing functional patterns, going to be like, "Oh my god, this is amazing."
Yeah,
I showed a little bit to the students in HBS. I think two it was. I showed a little bit
yeah.
of it, and yeah, I could tell they were pretty like, "What the?" They were a bit surprised by what the fuck was there. I guess
Sure.
even it was surprising to people when they saw the vector trainer and shit like that.
I know.
So
I was surprised.
yeah. That was the fun. I remember when Rodney first came in, I was like, "Hey, what'd you think when you came in to see this?" I remember when I first invited. He's like, "I had no idea what the fuck you were gonna show me," but he's like, "I did not think it was gonna be this. Like, what the fuck is this?
It's
Like, what
so
is
funny
this?
when people hypothesize, and I'm like, it's not that at all.
What are
It's
they?
so hard to
Hold
like.
on. So what do they hypothesize? What
I
is
don't.
this?
They just like everything. It's always just like, is it like this? Is it like this or whatever? And I'm like, and I won't even go too far into it. But I just say, I'm like, you can't, you really can't until you experience it. There's really no way to account for what is being accounted
It's
for.
very simple. It's very simple, but when
It
you have to
is.
put
It
it,
is.
yes, it's very simple. And that's the whole idea. The best innovations are usually the most
Right.
simple ones. It seems
Right.
to be that way. And
Right.
so, yeah, that's funny. Yeah, man, I'm just like, oh my God. I'm an old guy now. I'm 41, pushing on 42. And I'm like, it's funny, like you see how life works. Like you
Right.
begin to like you start seeing like, trends go through their full cycle and
Totally.
you see them repeat and you're like holy and I'm like holy shit, like, and then you can start predicting them, and this is why old people get rich, bro, because by the time they've seen cycles repeat they're like, oh, like the smart
Right.
older rich people, they're
Yes.
like, oh, I saw this shit, fucking I saw this 20 years ago.
Yep.
Oh my god, this is the beginning of a cycle, put your money into this. Boom, they make a bunch of fucking money. Somebody asked, will the vector trainer replace the regen? No, it will not. No, let me put it this way. Some of the shit that's in Project Function in general, you know what's fascinating, Mike? I told you about some of the preconceptions that I had about how they were wrong, and thank fuck they were wrong, because now it's like, it's just going to go like, it's going to just go like that. It's going to like layer on. But what I found was that using some of the stuff at Project Function, I went back to the pulley and then I was like, oh shit, I did not feel that at all before when I was
Totally.
moving the leverage king. I did not feel that at all before. I have access to new muscles that enable me to actually leverage this better than I ever could before. So it's like literally, bro, it's like kind of like you go back to like the, I guess, functional patterns chamber sequences, and then you go to project function and you implement what's in chamber sequences into project function. And you're like, I want to go move around and kind of mix it up a little bit. Then you go back to the pulley machine. Maybe you fucking go wrestle or do whatever you want after that. But if you go back to the pulley, you're like, I didn't have that muscle before. I didn't have that layer before on this motion. And now I have all this coordination. I feel like less junctions are hyper flexible. This feels amazing. Like I was tripped the fuck out the other day when that happened, bro. I was like, okay, I'll go back to the pulley. And I was thinking, I was like, man, how relevant is this shit gonna be? Because that's the question that I always ask, and I've asked this question for the longest time, forever. I always tell people, I'm like, man, it's a tell, and I always say this in probably almost every live feed when I talk to you, Mike. Almost every live feed. I always ask, man, is a 10-week online course material really that even any fucking good anymore? Is it not? And like I'll talk to you or I'll talk to like Lewis or Rodney, and they'll be like, yeah, it still has significant relevance in many fucking ways. It's like it's not that it's irrelevant. It's just like you can take what you learned from HBS 2 or HBS 3 and apply it to the 10-week online course material, right, Mike? Have you noticed that at all or no?
100%. I use the 10-week course with all of my clients still, all the time.
So it's like I go back and I get insecure and I'm like, man, I hope I'm not just selling people a bunch of shit. I hope that the last few years of stuff that I fucking taught them wasn't shit. But it did seem, at least for myself, like a linear progression scale where it's kind of like I had to go through all this shit
Yes.
to get to where I'm at now. And today I was like really tripping out. I put up a video of like a video that I put up, I think it was back in 2012. And I was just that video was more just me dabbling around and doing exercises that people might want to watch on video. But I remember those times I was just like, bro, I don't know what the fuck the body does. I don't even know how it moves. I don't even know, like, I don't know that much. Like, I'm not, I don't really know that much about the damn body. I remember at that time, Bruno and coming to FP, I think it was like maybe late 2012 or around like maybe 2013. And I remember there was a time where he was discussing going like, bro, let's go do some corrective exercises, man. Like we got to do corrective work. And I'm like, and I wouldn't do it. I'd be like, I'd just sit down. I'd just sit down and I'd do some MFR and I would just be looking at stuff on the phone or whatever the fuck. And really, most of the time when I'm looking at stuff, I'm like, I'm multitasking constantly. It's like my brain just multitasks with everything. Every conversation I have, it's like sometimes it's hard to even when I always tell people, even when I do these live feeds, it's like you guys have about like half my attention, I would say. And so I remember like when he started seeing my process the first time, and obviously, I was like fucking not anywhere near what it is now. So it was way easier to criticize or be skeptical of at that time. And so I was just like, he'd be like, bro, let's do some more like corrective exercises and shit like that. And I'm like, bro, if I try doing any more, I kept telling him, I'm like, bro, you don't understand. Like, Bruno, you got to stop, bro. I was like, my concept is fucked up. Like even if I do more of what I know right now, I'm going to
It
fuck
wouldn't
myself up more right
matter.
now, bro.
Yep.
And so I don't my concept is broken. I need to unbreak my concepts. Like I have too many beliefs and I need to shatter these beliefs so I can get to the new shit that's gonna make things better. And it took him a while. It took him maybe about like 2 or 3 weeks. He started doing some of the corrective work and whatnot. And he's like, fuck, I'm stumped. He's like, I can feel like all the pains that I had before, they're not going away, even though I'm doing following all these principles that you were talking about. And I'm like, yeah, bro, because these principles are fucking broken. These principles, what's amazing to me, it's not that they're broken. It's just like they're only going to take you so far.
That's right.
Funnily enough, you get some of these jackoffs that are in FP that are like, oh, now he doesn't know what he's talking about. He's wrong about what he's doing. And I'm like, yeah, bro, you're fucking like telling people that I'm wrong about something that I created like in 2014 or 2015.
Right.
And in my scale, in my time frame, that's like fucking 1,000 years ago in my world, based upon how I see. I'm like, that's really you're going way far back when you bring that shit up. And so anyway, I told Bruno that, and then he was like, it took him a few weeks, but he's like, oh, I get this shit now. And then he's like, oh wow, what the like this is. There's a lot more to this shit. And so I was watching that video today, and I was just thinking about like how much my life sucked at that time. Like how shitty my life literally was, bro. Because you were just telling me before when we were talking on the phone earlier, you were talking about how much control you have over people's bodies right now when you train them, right?
I'm working them. It's crazy. No, actually, there was a client. I had a practitioner who asked me a question about a client, and I felt like this was the moment where I was like, and I know there's layers, and every day I'm discovering new things. So by no means am I saying that this is the end result. I would never say that, but this client was had like neck stuff, like like no matter what they did, they would always be leveraging from their
Yep.
neck. And my practitioner just pulled me aside real quick, and I was like, and I literally just within moments, what I like with what I'm doing right now is working with people with what they're giving me right in that moment
Hmm.
in time. Do you? And actually, it's funny. It was at our HBS3 research. Um, you were queuing it's Jeff Stein in
Yes.
Jersey, right? He's one.
Yes.
Yes. So you were queuing him and he was doing great and taking all the cues and soaking it up like he does. Jeff, he's the fucking man. And you were like, yeah, you have to control your clients. Like you can't let them relax for like a second. So, like some clients you can, but like especially hard case chronic pain
Yep.
clients,
Yep.
you literally have to be the puppet master with whatever they're doing. And I remember you told him like as he was walking to his seat, you were cueing him. And as he was walking to go sit down, and then as he was squatting down to sit down, you were cueing him. And then you were like, okay, and now when you lay down, you're gonna put your hand here, you're gonna put your elbow here, and da 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 da. And it was like, brilliant. And I felt like finally, right at that moment in time, he was just sitting in a certain position. I was like, see how this is happening when he's sitting? If you just adjust this, this, and this, and this, I could just do it with the way that he was sitting right there. And
Yep.
he was like, oh, yeah, I didn't feel my neck at all. You know what I'm saying? And
Hmm.
it's like, and I was able to institute certain pressures and like all this other stuff just in the position that he was already in. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And it's like, yeah, that's literally, hitting the pinnacle of my powers there because, though, I wanted to talk about this real quick with what you were saying, Nowdy, talking about spectrums and layers and the 10-week course and what you can layer into the 10-week course and everything that we've been layering in at Functional Patterns Santa Monica just with the current ecosystem. with the things like, now that we have like the function neck and the leverage king, the regen trainer, the stuff we learned from the 10-week course, the stuff that I've learned from this course. After I came back from the vector course is really when it was like, oh yeah. And I know it sounds silly, but it's like we're accounting for different vectors and you can account for even multiple ones,
Yep.
at the same time. And like,
Yep.
okay, you potentiate this one and then this
Yep.
one. And then that's when it was like, blah, I can really now that gave me a concept of layering.
Yes.
And that's when I
Did I
started being like,
have to
okay,
teach
it's
it to you,
just like,
Mike?
say it
Did I
again.
have to teach it to you directly?
No, well, that was the thing where it was like, because I definitely have had moments where I'm like, I'm stuck, and I know it's not going to be like a specific technique that like gets me out of this. You
Yep.
know what I'm
Yep.
saying? And sure enough, though, going through that, now I don't get stuck nearly as easily. You
Oh,
know what I'm
absolutely, bro.
saying? Like it's way
That's
easier now,
I don't think I don't think I've gotten stuck in fucking a long time.
for
Fortunately,
sure,
obviously I've had a long time to think about things. But what I've learned is that anytime, like with the vector, it kind of like anytime that you employ a new technology that gets you to move better, a different level of awareness comes, and I would say your vision literally changes. The way that you view reality fucking changes. Like
totally.
I look at things and I'm like, oh, those two things relate to each other. Like the relative parameters of how I see reality change, bro. It's fucking crazy. It's absolutely insane. And it's like, maybe it makes you. Who knows, man? Maybe this is something that it's like I've asked this question where it's like, let's say you have somebody become really good at understanding these principles, and then you put them in school for 2 years, and you get them to read really complex fucking subject matter, and you discipline them. Does that raise IQ? How crazy would that fucking be? I would not be surprised if that ends up being the case later on down the line. We go down this path, we educate the nervous system to downregulate the stress response, and then never mind that you begin to because really what I guess maybe I'm understanding relativity better. You're doing the same thing. We're all kind of doing this in FP, but we're understanding the relative nature of reality even more because I think functional patterns is like a relativity experiment, is it not?
Bro.
This moves relative to this at this level at this time, right? In
100%.
space.
a
So
hundred percent.
so so, so it's like a space time continuum fucking orientation.
It's literally that concept. When you start including tyranny of words and everything in relation to everything else, man, I can see why people are initially resistant to it because it's heavy, and once you get past a certain point, it's incredible. But exactly what you're talking about in terms of like understanding complex material, that's why it's like when you start combining tyranny of words with it, it's just so nasty. And then when you were talking, I think you were on I don't know if it was a live or if it was a story on Instagram where you were talking about how important the quote unquote mental model was, and value system is almost more important than biomechanics because that's literally the bottom.
Yes.
And that's why you spend so much time on that. It's like, and that's why FP is kind of the filter that it is, and why the FP's brand is the way that it is, because when you don't understand that foundation, then the rest of it is really tough. Because here's what I wanted to say: functional patterns is literally like the pinnacle of systems thinking. You know what I'm saying? Like when everything is layering on top of everything else. When I see what you can do with the regen and the function neck and the RG bell, and what you're layering in the RG bell, and it was like, just when you were helping me, you're like, you just relative to what I was doing, and then I'm able to throw it in a completely different
Yep.
way.
Yep.
I wouldn't have been able to take those cues
Fuck
two
no.
years
No,
ago.
bro.
You see what
No.
I'm
No.
saying?
Hell no. No.
There was
No.
no way.
Yep.
There would be no way. I just am so surprised at how much faster I'm able
Yes.
to get that.
And so I wonder if we're getting to like the point of understanding deep learning. The problem is it's like I look at trees now and I don't see living matter. I see machines.
Wow.
I see water moving and I see a machine. I
Totally.
see everything becomes a machine after a certain point, Mike. And I
Right.
think that the underpinnings of everything that I think I talk about take away like the magical. Don't get me wrong, it's like a magical machine. Don't get me wrong,
For sure.
but it's a fucking machine. Like it's a full on machine. It's a closed loop machine. That's what life itself is. So living things are just closed loop machines. Reality is a closed loop machine. And so I like I get a sense where there's like a it's like a lie on one side, and then you have reality on the other side, right? And when you get from the lie has a lot of like rigid rules that tell you, hey, like you have to get married and you have to have kids. Not to say that there's anything wrong with it or whatever the fuck. You have to abide by these traditions and these norms and these things that everybody fucking values. And you feel warm and fuzzy when you're connected to them. You hang out with your friends, you drink a little bit of wine, you smoke a little bit of weed. These are the norms that you do. You have your rituals that you engage in. You watch some football, whatever. So there's like this grid that you fucking get locked into. And then you're like, and then what I'm doing is I'm gonna go over here. There's like this other fucking reality, like the nuts and bolts that are behind all of that shit. And then you begin to say, okay, well, like, like what is this over here? And there's a theme to it, bro. And I talked about this the last time on a live feed with you before. There's like a theme, and the theme itself is like it's like the psychedelic realm, but it's almost like dimensional but it's like literally there's another dimension or there's another reality operating interwoven with this reality. And I don't know if it's like I've always asked the question that when you fully wipe away anxiety, if you fully wiped away anxiety and you weren't stressed or worried about fucking anything at all, nothing, you would literally perceive reality differently. Your receptors would be different. Your body and your brain would perceive different things. And the question I ask is, when you completely eliminate it, it's like, how similar would reality appear to you? How similar would shapes appear to you? And from how I see it right now, because I have to talk to fucking for whatever reason, bro. And it's like this has been like a daunting thing to me. When I have to talk to engineers and shit, it's like it was the most intimidating thing to have to sit there with engineers, and I'd be like, oh my God, I'm about to have to talk to a fucking engineer, and I have to like visualize what it is that needs to happen here in order to get this fucking thing to be the way that it needs to. Because like with engineering, you can create an assortment of different things that are redundant, that are useless. You can create an infinite amount of things that are worthless in reality, like worthless shit. But there's very few things that you can create that are actually going to be beneficial. It's like in order for something to be contextually beneficial, you have to filter out so much shit, which is
So
what's
much
crazy to me.
shit. It's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous.
It's
It's fucking crazy.
ridiculous.
Which is why I tell people to go on a movement elimination protocol to eliminate what it is that actually is holding you back from actually
Totally.
fixing yourself.
Totally.
And so I'm sitting here with these engineers, and before I'd be like, oh God, I don't know, does that have to kind of be here? And I'd rely more heavily on the engineers. These days, I'm like, nope, this needs to move 1 inch this way.
Mhm.
That right there needs to have a better. This is how we need to use leverage to get this to move here to here. But then we have to account for these exact degrees that are fucking right here to accommodate this fucking specific thing. Otherwise, that's going to interfere with this thing over here. And when we can get all these things to line up properly, we get better biomechanical function. And I'm actually at that fucking place now. And I'm like, what the fuck? And the funny thing is I'm using more of this project function like tech. It's becoming easier for me to do that over time. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? What is going on? It's I don't know if it's a renaissance. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just like I've been building up to this point or some shit.
Honestly, there's two quick things that I would say. One is I feel like, that's why you just offhandedly post, from the past, because you understand that this is literally the beginning. You know what I'm saying?
Yes,
Like the next decade is gonna be insane. You know what I'm saying? Like you're just finishing
probably.
the prologue. You know what I'm saying? Like you're
Yep.
starting chapter 1 right now when you're talking about the nervous system and learning and actually, because what you're doing is learning in real time with your nervous system when you're working with engineers and having to create like practical things. Like that's
Yes.
very different from sitting in a classroom and being like, oh, here's an inequality and this is less than this and whatever. It's like you're doing that and making those calculations in real time. If then this, right? And
Yes.
then the other thing that you were talking about, which I think is so important, that I was talking to a couple practitioners about the other day, because when I'm looking at a facility, and the greatest thing about a facility is learning. And FP in and of itself is becoming this feedback system for education. And it's not just about, it is about the biomechanics, and all those things are interrelated. But one of the themes that I like to like pepper in themes, at different times and highlight different things. And the one that I read about recently was the illusion of mysticism. And I thought this was a really interesting way to put it, because you're talking about seeing the tree. And like when you see a redwood, it's like awe inspiring, right? But you could still see it as a machine, and the practicality of what exactly it is without imposing the illusion of mysticism. So when somebody who's like a high level jujitsu practitioner, or maybe even like when I'm cueing to my practitioner, me cueing that person, or when we see you cue people at the course, it seems mystic. You seem like a magician, right? It's like, whoa, now he's a magician. But what that is the illusion of mysticism. What it is that you're seeing all the nuts and bolts of it. And because you have this decade of experience in these first principles, in that moment in time, it seems like magic. But that's the illusion of mysticism. It's a culmination of all those
Well, bro,
things.
let me bring up something that's really fascinating. I was at the grocery store the other day, and I saw somebody who trained with the practitioner there, and they were like, "Bro, I love what you do. This is amazing. Like I've been working with my practitioner for X amount of time." And then they were then he said he's like, "Where are you loading this from?" Like, and I was like, "What do you mean?" And he's like, where is this coming from, bro? Like what are you tuning into? And I'm like, bro, there's planes of motion and planes of rotation, and I don't know. Maybe there's a visual system there or something like that. But the truth of the matter is, like what Jacques Fresco says, it's like creativity is taking known elements and reconfiguring them in unique ways.
That's right.
But it's essentially what it comes down. I'm paraphrasing, I believe that may be the exact quote, but really what it comes down to is that you're just. It's like I train a client. I have them do a chamber sequence, they get a negative response, and their body seemed to be positioned in a certain way, and I'm like, son of a bitch, the technique failed when it shouldn't have failed. What needed to happen there? What did I need to change to accommodate that person's anatomy better? Fuck, I failed. I need to try again. Let's try this technique again. Did it work? No. Shit. Now I got to change the way the person's orientation in space. Maybe do another chamber. Maybe that chamber was fine. Maybe I needed to find a way to do it differently in order to make it work for this specific individual with their specific problems. And so it seems mystical. It does seem like magical. But what people don't understand is the thousands of hours that you have to spend working with somebody to be like, fuck, they got a bad experience. Man, they left and they had a little bit of a twinge on their TFL or a little bit on their
Exactly.
QLs, just a
Oh
little bit.
God,
And
it's
I'm
so
not
true.
and I'm not happy about that. I'm not like, this is not good. And so really what that mysticism is me just sitting there going like, my insecurities going like, why did I fail? This is a failure now. You need to overcome this failure because this person is relying upon you. This is how you make your living, and it's your responsibility to make sure that you fix this person's life. This is your responsibility. This is your mission. And if that person fails, then you failed. And there is no other solution for this problem because you are responsible for this person's problems. If they're putting in the time and they're putting in the work, you are responsible for this person's livelihood. So you better fucking figure this out. That's the dialogue that's going on in my head
For
every
sure.
single day. There's nothing mystical about it, as far
For
as I'm
sure.
concerned. It's more
For
like
sure.
an animal or a machine going like, bzz, bzz, learn what pelvis turned the wrong direction,
Totally.
pelvis height the wrong direction. Oh shit, lumbar, lower lumbar shears to the right, upper lumbar shears to the right, left. I need to revert. It's like the brain is just processing that, and it's like really the experience is that you get in there. It's like doing jujitsu, and you got to get throttled. That's just
Yeah,
what it is.
for
You
sure.
get throttled, you get slammed around, punked, and you're out to be made. You look like an idiot essentially.
Totally.
You end up feeling like a fucking idiot, and so by the time that you get to a place where you're like, I'm figuring out this fucking game. I'm figuring out the dimensional constructs of this shit. I'm figuring out there's a God or if there isn't or whatever. I'm understanding the relative nature of how things are supposed to move to one another, and my vision it keeps getting sharper in terms of me understanding how I get this person to where they need to go. So then when I get into a class, if I'm showing teaching people the chamber sequences, it's just kind of like, okay, boom, do that, nah, nah, yes, no, not. And yes, it does appear, and I've heard this a few times lately. People are like, yeah, it's like he's a wizard or some shit. But it's not that. It's just more like I'm a mechanic and I'm like, no, this has to
Totally.
change. And I've had some really tough cases, bro. I mean, you want to talk about people with high performers with a very, very, very low attention span, autistic people with very low attention spans. And in order to get them to change, you are not afforded the opportunity to miss for half of a fucking second.
Totally.
Like literally, if I'm working with some people, I literally have to be like, oh, like there's some people you can just train and they'll just be fucking fine. You just be like,
Totally.
okay, do this, then they do this, they do this, they do this, because
Yeah.
their attention span hasn't been like
Damaged.
it hasn't been destroyed. Lewis Ellery writes this live might be all time podium level. Thanks, guys. Well, Lou, obviously you understand that motherfucker. You're
Sure.
right in this with us. Of course he understands this. I'm just describing what we all fucking have to go through. And so anyway, so you're not afforded the opportunity to break the link, and so the intensity of the session gets so fucking high. The amplitude of the session gets so fucking high that you're like, eventually when you run something in a course, like if I'm in an HBS, I'm like, these people have the attention span.
This is a piece of cake.
I'm like this. I'll eat this shit up for fucking
For
breakfast. Here,
sure.
do this, do that. But bro, like the amount of licks I had to take in order to get to that fucking place was a lot. And so the truth of the matter is, this isn't some magical mystical shit. It's more like, dude, get up and get the fuck to work. That's really what the fuck it is. Stop being fucking lazy. Stop hoping that the universe is just going to grant you some magical fucking vision where you're going to just develop mastery for fucking nothing, because that's not going to fucking happen. The world doesn't work like that. And it's the opposite of mystical. And that's when you start taking yourself away from like the magical shit of being
Yes.
over here to
Yes.
going to reality, which is what's hard for
Exactly.
people to accept. And I think that this is a lot of what gets people to be turned off by me.
Yep.
But let me put it this way. I'll say not a lot of people. It gets some people to get turned off, and those some people just don't like to work.
Sure.
They want healing and functionality to be an event so bad, and they refuse to accept that it's a process. And understanding the process is going to lead to you being fucking pissed, scared, feeling like a loser, feeling like you're never going to figure it out, feeling hopeless. That's what this journey is going to push onto you. It's never going to be like, hey, look, I have this completely figured out. Everything's fucking this. What people want more than anything is like, hey, look, do the Wim Hof breathing. And if you do the Wim Hof breathing and you go into the ice baths, you will forever have mental peace, because he appears to be a guy that has fucking mental peace.
For
That's
sure.
that. That's what people want to say, or people want to believe. Like, hey, just go put your feet on the fucking ground outside and get out into nature and get into the fucking sun. And if you do that, that's mostly what the fuck you need to do. And if I ask you this right now, Mike, how many of these biohackers even do functional patterns? You get
Very
what I'm
few.
saying?
Very few.
Which
Yeah.
to me is
Almost none.
insane. Which is
Yeah. None of the
absolutely
visible ones.
exactly. And so for me, what's crazy about it is that it's just like, well. But what's crazy is that they need this just like they need all. Well, they need this more than they need
Boy,
all the
did
stuff that they're talking
they need
about.
it. I sent you the one that had 1 million followers that just had back surgery. I'm
Yeah,
like, because people talk about like how I look and stuff. I'm like, I look way better than that guy, and I don't have 1 million followers. And he apparently talks about health and shit. He's getting back surgery. I don't know what that's all about at all.
yeah. So yeah, it's one of those things where I'm like, I think that's where people get pissed off with me, because it's like, I don't know. I guess I engage in hyperbole. I guess I engage like I engage in rhetoric. I don't feel like I can engage in conjecture. I've had these things thrown my way, and I'm like, no, like Mark Bell is the guy that's kind of like made me aware of these terms, like that people engage in these things. Like, well, he said that I've engaged in these things, but then I explain it, then he understands that I'm not. But I'm just kind of like, I just think of like I feel like if I didn't engage legit, then we wouldn't be able to fix the problems that we do on people. Like we wouldn't be able to solve these issues. So that to me is like that's the whole kicker, and which I think is why people at least trust my position to some degree, or they're apt to want to like they're apt to want to continue to keep taking this on because if it didn't work, then obviously they wouldn't buy into it. And I could
Totally.
imagine that a lot of people these days that are like working with practitioners, they don't even know who the fuck I am.
Yeah.
And that's the crazy part is, bro. I don't think anybody really cares. You know, like how many people do you know who invented the internet, Mike?
No clue.
Neither do
Yeah.
I. And I just asked that question. I'm like, that's kind of fucked up. That person probably went through a lot of shit to create the
Totally.
internet. You get what I mean? I'm just like,
Yes.
God damn. Like, how ungrateful are we? Like, I wish, I think that that should be something. I think that that should be like the foundations of an educational curriculum for
For
kids.
sure.
It's
For
like,
sure.
hey guys, this is how they made the light bulb. Hey guys, this is how they
Yes.
made the internet. Hey guys, this is how the Wright brothers actually, because we heard about that the Wright brothers made a flying machine, but I want to know how they did it. They should be teaching this in school and be
For
like, look,
sure.
this is actually how they got the airplane to fly. Check this out. They fucking created a center of mass, forward to back, side to side, and they fucking created propeller systems, and that's probably we got it to fucking fly in
Totally.
space.
Totally.
Okay, this is how we got the machine. So center of mass, it was important. I would have to imagine for creating a flying machine, but it's like I'm realizing now that even with Project Function, I'd imagine a lot of people are just gonna walk in and be like, "Yeah, whatever."
Yo,
It's just a
you
bunch.
for
It's
sure.
just
I
like
already know a kind or two, and I'm gonna be like, okay.
it's just gonna be. They're just gonna walk in and be like, "Well, this is just normal. This is just whatever." Like there
Totally.
will be people that you put through chamber sequences in the next 5 to 10 years, and they'll be like, "This is just exercise.
Yeah.
This is what it always was. It's
Oh
just."
my God. So
That's
true.
and that's the issue with our educational system is that we don't teach the context
Yeah.
of that. And bro, I would never know about it, Mike. Maybe this is possibly part of my value in this life that since I've had to go through all this shit to develop what I have,
Yeah.
that it's like now I can like my level of gratitude for fucking everything for biology that doesn't even have a human creator or a developer or whatever. I can look at a blade of fucking grass and be like, Jesus, that's amazing. Like it's a
Yeah.
blade of
For
grass,
sure.
but it's like it's alive and it's just connected to the earth and it's like fucking running on like it's powered off the sun and it's just there.
Yeah.
It's like I can appreciate everything
Wild.
now because it's
Totally.
all work. Like when
Yes.
you think about what kind of struggle did that blade of grass, did the genes of that blade of grass have to go through environmentally for it to become what it
For
is?
sure.
So there's nothing mystical about reality.
There's not.
It's just work. That's the whole fucking
For
thing. And
sure.
people are fucking lazy. I tend to find that stupid people, what precedes stupidity is laziness. Extreme stupidity corresponds to extreme laziness. That's what it is. If you don't have a work, if you don't have a work ethic, then automatically you're going to become stupid. Because in order for you to understand things, you can't be mentally lazy. You
Yeah.
have to be switched on enough to be like, well, what? Let me investigate. Like that's what they said happened. Well, let me fucking what's inside of here? What's going on? Okay, so that happened between that person, and that person. Well, what happened there? What's the argument here? But then, like, people will do that with like fucking reality TV shows or like fictional movies or some bullshit like that. But do they do that with stories that are consequential to like
That's right.
them having a better life? It's very rare that they do that, man. It's extremely so I never you. It's rare that you ever see anything like that, man. But
No.
like, I feel like I've had a very unique experience in that regard, developing everything that I have. But I will say that it's like um, it's gonna be it will be funny when most people are just kind of like because there's people that come over to Project Function that have like that are just like they have to do work for us or whatever. There's some people that don't even know who I am,
For sure.
and I'm like, awesome, like it's fucking great. But little eventually they find out and they'll be like, yeah, that's the guy that started this. And for them, they'll be like, yeah, it's whatever. It's just kind of like any other gym kind of thing because we have people
Yeah.
that'll come in
Yeah.
and
Exactly.
they'll be like, yeah, it's kind of like another place or whatever. And so they'll just see it and then like like be like whatever. But then once they get deeper into it, maybe that's when they'll ask the question and be like, how the fuck did this all come about? But we don't ask this about light bulbs. We don't ask this about fucking the internet. We don't ask this about TVs. We don't
No,
ask this about motion, even light sockets. I'm just like, fuck. You get what I'm saying? Like
it's insane.
outlets, like power outlets. Like, I'm just kind of like how the fuck did who came up with that? Who came up with those three prongs, right? Who came up with that exact fucking design? Who was the guy that got that? Like anywhere you go in the United States, you can like that. That shit is a term ubiquitous. I guess is that the whole.
Yeah,
It's everywhere. It's
everywhere.
fucking it's everywhere. The three prongs. You have the grounding, the positive, and the negative. That formation somebody thought of, and it's like since that fucking point, it's spread everywhere in the United States. If you go to Brazil, it's different. It's got like two prongs that run this way,
Sure,
and
sure.
it's more horizontal. I think it's Brazil and Europe, but
Yep.
somebody thought of that. And when you think about it, it's just like, how the fuck did that come about, right?
Seriously,
It's truly amazing that most people can't appreciate little things like that,
a
man. Like
hundred
even like I look at a
percent.
thermostat, I'm like fuck.
100%. There was a, you had mentioned previously that your style was like Michael Faraday's. And, what I would recommend people if they do want to get extracurricular with this, which is going to be the people probably watching this live, is that one of the ways that you can start expanding your education in science is just even reading about, somebody like Michael Faraday or Isaac
Yes.
Newton or Einstein and under because all of these guys were a part of and partially started or contributed to scientific revolutions. And what I really like about Michael Faraday was his commitment to education. And initially, he wasn't about necessarily like educating, but it was something that he fell into and initially was very awkward at. And then eventually he started putting on these things that were eventually, I think, uh, possibly televised, and it was like this huge thing, Michael
Well,
Faraday's
they weren't
presentations. But
televised. It was before there was
it
even
was
radio or
before
anything
that.
like that. Yeah, it was before
Okay,
that. But no, he would put on like fucking like big spectacles with
they were
electricity and
big
shit like that.
spectacles. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it was like they were like shows almost, right? They were like
Yes.
in big theaters. There we go. Sorry about that. Usually I'm better with the scientific history, but the thing that I wanted to talk about was when he was. I think he invented the magnifying glass, if I'm not mistaken.
Did he?
Um,
No, because
uh,
I no, he invented the
some sort of
electric.
lens,
He may have done that, but he's mainly known for electric generators.
electromagnetism.
But electric. Well, set the groundwork for James Clerk Maxwell to understand like the mechanics of electromagnetism. So
Yes,
he did that, but then he also created the electric coil, I believe. So that which set the foundation for an electric motor, but then he also set the foundation for an electric generator. So like if you go to a
right,
hydroelectric dam or whatever the fuck,
right.
it's really interesting. I don't know if you've seen it or whatever, but it's like it shows like what he would do. Like he would put let's see if I can remember it properly, but he would have a magnet, and he found that every single time that you would create, like you would have a magnet, and then you would put like some kind of an electrode or like a piece of steel in it, and he'd have a cable running through it. Every time that he would put it through, like if it was still, it wouldn't create electricity, but the idea of moving the thing in and out
Yeah,
over and over again would trigger an electric fucking current. So
yes,
essentially, that's how like magnetism would eventually create electricity.
right.
So these basic experiments were essentially what figured out, from how I understand it, these were the things that pretty much created the modern age. And had he not discovered these things at the time that he did, because they were very far in advance, it may have taken another 200 years before we would be where we're at
For
right now. It could have taken another
sure.
100 to 200 years before we would even have any of the technologies that we have right now. So we would still pretty much be in like the fucking in like we'd still be utilizing like what do you call those fucking lamps like that use oil
Uh,
or whatever the fuck
oh,
we'd be
yeah,
using
the
candles and shit.
lanterns.
And we'd be using lanterns and candles at
Yes,
this point to light ourselves in the
for
evening. We wouldn't have
sure.
electricity if it wasn't for this dude. At least it seems like we would have had electricity, but we wouldn't have had it to the degree the world wouldn't have been electrified to the degree that it was, and we probably wouldn't have telecommunications the way that we have either if it wasn't for this guy. And it was just
Totally.
because he just made very basic observations on reality, and he conducted just the most basic experiments.
But the thing about it is they were basic, but he did them at a speed and a quantity that was unheard of at the time. So like
Yes.
they were talking about looking at his notes and how it would just be almost seemingly gibberish, but he would be like, I moved the coil in this direction, didn't work. I moved it in this direction, it
Hilarious.
didn't
Oh
work. I
my
moved it in this
God.
direction, it didn't work. I moved in this, and then, but then he would always get to a point, it'd be pages and pages and pages and pages, and then he would get to a point and he'd be like, I moved it in this direction, and it sort of worked. And then that would be like the next
Oh
layer.
my
And then that
God.
boom,
That's
boom, boom,
fucking
boom. It was
crazy,
really
bro.
wild. Yeah, 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 yeah,
Because
yeah. It was
I
great to
feel like
read
it's
about.
describing so much of my fucking experience
That's what I'm
with
saying.
FP.
That's what
I'm
I'm saying.
what the fuck?
It
That's
was
crazy,
really
bro.
cool read. It was a really cool read. So anybody who is into kind of that little bit of extracurricular and into this scientific culture, which is FP, and that's that. I didn't. I mean, it's not that I didn't give a shit about science. I always liked science, but I didn't have a deep. This is giving me my deepest appreciation for it. Understanding Jack Fresco and you, and that's what led me to pick up the book. And it's a great read. It was really well written.
Yeah, I'll say that. Like the one of the criticisms that I saw of me recently was, and I don't really pay attention to it like anywhere near to the degree that I used to, but was that that apparently we aren't engaging fully scientifically or whatever the fuck. But it's like most of these dudes, when you see what they're writing or the things that they do on social media, it's kind of like the shit that they profess. It's like you could tell they spent a lot of time reading business books. You know how many business books
Right.
I've read, Mike? How many do you think I've read in my life?
Probably zero, I would
Yeah,
imagine.
zero. I've never read a single fucking business book in my entire life. I've never even approached it because I fucking hate business
For
people.
sure.
I don't like them. I intrinsically I understand that at some point you need to be able to convince people of something or whatever it may be.
Sure, sure,
But
sure.
I'll tell you point blank that I've never read any business books. But these guys I've never read the book How to Win Friends and Influence People. You get what I mean? Like that's a book that
Hmm.
I'm not. And you've read books like that. That's fine, Mike. But I'm just saying,
No,
like,
no, I
if somebody's gonna
understand.
critique me for my scientific analysis, but they before they ever even got into science or really like wanted to like delve into like solving problems, before they did that, they were reading business books. Then I'm sorry,
Yeah,
we can't have you can't really have a discussion at that point, as far as I'm concerned, because your foundations are
sure.
kind of fucked up. And the reason that I say that is because you're more oriented around trying to make money and develop notoriety and winning in the hierarchy
Yeah,
than you are concerned with actually trying to uncover what's like what you're missing or what your lack of vision is
100%.
ultimately.
100%. 100%. And I
Anyway, I think that's
think,
a yeah. Go ahead, Mike, and we'll close
sorry,
it
and
out
I'll,
after this. Yeah, go ahead.
but it was just the other thing that about that story with Michael Faraday was also the reason why I would encourage people to look up more of the history of that stuff is because when you were talking about cycles, so I guess Faraday, I guess, was what, late 1800s?
Yes.
Okay, that's why I was fucking up. So yeah, the
Yeah,
whole
yeah,
thing
yeah.
about TV. Sorry
And
about
I think
that.
mid eighteen
Yeah,
hundreds to late
it
eighteen
was
hundreds.
it was yeah, early on. But he one of the things that when you're talking about cycles, and one of the things that we've had to talk about with FP is peer review. And and we talk about how there's kind of these politics involved with it.
Yeah.
And you better believe that in the 1850s in Faraday's time, like his mentor and all this other stuff, there was this whole thing about giving people credit, and his mentor got really salty with him, even though Michael Faraday did most of the work. So you see these cycles of,
Hmm.
political hierarchies and the business aspect of it and all that stuff. This is not new. It repeats itself all the time for generations.
Yep.
So that's why I just find, obviously just by observing it, you're going to see it. But occasionally it's interesting to transport to that time in history and realize it's all the same.
And with that, with what Mike's saying right now, if you're here and you listen to one of these people talking shit about myself, or especially the people that are in the FP community, and they want to call you guys minions, or they want to like insert like derogatory terms, um, just assume. Let me just put it this way: come at them from a skeptical perspective. Be 20 times to 30 times more skeptical of them than me, because I've been in this bitch for fucking like 16 years, 15, 16 years, and FP still relevant. And keep this in mind, guys. Back in the day, there were these expos from Power Systems and Perform Better. I should have been invited back in 2011, 2012. They never invited me. They never even came close to inviting me. They never even called me. They never even acknowledged anything that I did. So keep this in mind. I had to pave a way for myself. I had to pave a way for this company, not to talk shit, but this is what it is. I had to find a completely alternative path because nobody wanted to let me in. Nobody wanted to have a discussion with me. Nobody wanted to acknowledge me. And keep this in mind, very few people in the industry even acknowledge me to this day who have any kind of a reputation. It's very seldom that functional patterns is ever acknowledged by anybody. By anybody. And of course it's because we dissect the things that we, just like Michael Faraday would say, hey, I moved the wire like this, and I moved the wire like this, and I moved the wire like this, and there was no result. All I'm doing, there was a great, let me see if I can find, nah, this might, I would put it up right now, but it might get us off this live. But I watched this comment where this, what the heck's her name? Sabine Hossenfelder. She's a physicist. And she had, one of the comments there was, we need to have science, what did he say? We need to have science publish negative results and not just positive results because they're just as important as the positive
For
results.
sure.
And I'm like, nope. I would say they're even more important than the positive result because the thing is,
Sure.
there are more things to eliminate in this reality than there are to actually add. There's more to eliminate, way more that you have to eliminate. There's so many dimensional things. Like, think about it, Mike. If I wanted to feed myself and I'm in the middle of the wilderness, how many things, how many options do I have to be able to actually feed myself? Think about it. I can move forward,
Right.
I can move back, I can move left, I can move right, I can jump up and down, I can move this finger like this and I could go like this. I didn't find food. Okay, so let me do this. I did I get I let me restart that. I could move my finger like this and go, okay, did that feed me? No. Okay, so let me move my other finger like this. Did that feed me? No. Okay, so now what I need, maybe I put this finger down and then I go like that. Did that feed me? No. So what if I take this finger and I go like this? Did that feed me? No. Like, you can go down a rabbit hole of doing all sorts. You could do literally trillions, quadrillions, quintillion things that are not going to feed you if you're in the middle of a desert.
That's
But
right.
but if you learn, okay, what I need to do is use my eyes and I have to find cacti and I have to see if there's maybe some prickly pear or something like that, or I have to get some kind of a stick that doesn't have pokey objects on it, and see if I can split open a cacti so I can eat some of its flesh to keep myself alive or whatever. Or I have to find out how to set a trap to see if I can get myself a rabbit eaten. To literally engage in such a way to be able to actually survive in nature is like, you have to narrow down your decisions to just a small, what would it be like? Would it be a small bandwidth? What the hell's the word that I'm looking for?
You
You
have to have constraints, I feel like.
you have to constrain your decisions to a very small set of options. And if you expand to infinite options, then the odds are you're going to starve to death. And
Exactly.
so engaging studies on negative results are extremely important because they at least tell you, hey, don't go here.
That's
Because
right.
if you go here, it's mostly a waste of time. Or here are the relative parameters of what
Yes.
happened if you go here.
This is
And
what you
this
were
is,
talking about earlier about the boxes.
yes,
Because you were saying you may as well stay in this box because right now, what is outside of this box is not going to be relative to you until you understand this
it's too
box.
advanced for you to even comprehend at this given point before you can even attack those other options that are there. So
100%.
before you can do a backflip, it'd probably be wise for you to learn how to sprint significantly better. But I'm not opposed to a backflip.
Totally.
That's something that comes later on down the line. So it's like what I found interesting out of that comment was that there's people that are finally saying, "Hey, we need to look at negative results." And
Right.
I've taken this on I've taken this mindset on for the longest time. And to go back to that whole position, I haven't just had. I'm not just saying this to talk shit. I'm just saying, to just to toot my own horn. I'm just simply describing what it is. When you have to run completely independent of what the system wants to perpetuate to survive and then to thrive in that scenario is extremely fucking
For
difficult.
sure.
It's really, it's harder than I can put into words. I'll just put it that much. It's like we're talking about, again, 18-hour days, on a regular fucking basis. I explained this on a previous live with Mike. I'm not going to get into it now, but it's like on a regular basis, 18 hours a day. Let me just put it this to you guys this way. I guarantee you the motherfuckers that are criticizing me have never been willing to put in that much time into fucking anything that was productive in their life at all. On my situation, that's all I ever fucking do. Anything that I have, if you look at my fucking living room, all it is just equipment and technologies that help me figure out what the hell I need to. From morning until I'm asleep, I have to do that. And then keep this in mind, I'm doing what I'm doing with FP, independent of investors. I'm doing what I do with, like, I have to, instead of me trying to convince investors to invest into my company and promise them that I'm going to make them more money, I have to convince the customers directly to buy what I have to offer so they spend money on it. It's way harder to do that. And that's the reason that most companies, most entrepreneurs aim to start an IPO so they can continue to just keep scamming investors in order to try and make themselves rich. That's why it takes like 10, 20 years sometimes for certain corporations to become profitable. Maybe I spoke over people's fucking heads when I talked about that, but you get what I'm saying, right, Mike?
100%.
It, it,
100%.
it's hard to run a legitimate business, guys. Keep this in mind. Also take this into consideration. I don't have any subsidies. I don't get subsidized. I get some tax breaks because of the innovations or whatever that I make, which I think is warranted, but I don't get any, like, I don't get money from the fucking government. You get what I mean? I'm not the fossil fuel industry. I'm not the electric vehicle industry. I'm not the guys making windmill technologies and shit like that. These guys get lots and lots of fucking subsidies. I get none of that, and we're still materializing all this shit, and we're still have a company that's growing. So on a difficulty level, like if this was a video game, and then I add in so many other things that I could talk about, right? I could talk about the fact that I don't think I really had an aptitude towards science fully to really grasp it, other than just having a tenacity to want to pursue this. Like, that's a problem. What I look like, being a small guy, somebody who's not super jacked, trying to make it in this industry, like all these things make everything significantly harder to pull off. So you have to understand this. If you're looking at these individuals, I'm just telling you guys this much right now. I'll tell you this much. These fucking dudes have never had to, the amount that these guys are willing to cut corners in their life to try and make a buck or to try and advance themselves, it's more than you could possibly imagine.
Pay more.
I can't cut corners. I haven't been put into a position where I fucking could cut corners based upon my position in life. And I can't even talk about most of my experiences, because if I did, people would be like, "Oh wow, they might." I can't talk about it because I don't want to have more problems on social media, and I don't want to talk about it because I don't want to reveal too many things that happened in my life that were fucked up. But it's like some people go through the gauntlet to truly develop themselves. And what I find funny is that when you get some fucking cuck who takes an HBS course of mine or takes a human foundation course of mine, who's ready to start shitting on me, when they've literally, like, it's like literally, I grab the spoon and I put it in their fucking mouth and I'm like, here you go, bro. Here's tens of thousands of hours of work. Here it is, baby. Here you go. Here comes the airplane. Here's the airplane. You go, baby. Oh yeah.
Oh man.
When I start seeing that, I'm just like, and keep this in mind. They try and act like they're respectful or whatever the fuck. They always try acting respectful, but I'm like, bro, shut the. I'm just like, I'm just speaking off the cuff here, guys. There's no. This is like raw. I'm raw dogging it at this point. When they speak in these manners and say, "Hey, look, like I don't want to be involved. Like I'm not trying to dog whistle. I'm not trying to cause any more drama." I'm like, then why even make the fucking video? You don't even
Yep.
need to make a fucking video.
Totally.
So it's just like you're gonna sit here and act like you're being respectful to me. You're going to sit here and be like, "Oh, now he's got this fucking thing wrong." When it's like you never even had a fucking conversation with me about any of these variables. You never even had a discussion with me about any of this shit. And then never mind that I could get any results that you get, I could probably get in a month. Like you could spend your next 3 years like fucking if I could I had a client, Mike, who I put on, like, people would be like, this is probably be a lie, but this motherfucker put on about, like, what was it, like 6 pounds of muscle in like 2 weeks, bro. He was like, what the fuck? And this guy was skeptical, right? I was fucking 6 pounds of muscle in 2 weeks, and most people are gonna be like, bro, that's fucking bullshit. Maybe it was water, But people that were around him were like, dude, you fucking look like you really blew up. Are you on, are you fucking taking some shit? So, with that in mind, that was 2 weeks. It took 2 weeks to finally get to that point. So I set a foundation up of like, off of like maybe like 8 different sessions prior to that. Like it was like 8 sessions prior to that I set
Sure.
up a foundation, but it was really it was like 2 weeks of actual work that I did with the person. But it was actually really just like 5 or 6 other sessions. So we're
Yeah.
talking about like 6 sessions.
Because
Six
you
sessions.
layered it.
Yes.
He had the
Six.
foundation, so then that 2 weeks all of a sudden is exponential.
Yeah, and really those other 2 weeks, it was like really I did like it was probably a grand total of like 15 sessions, and I was able to throw that much money. It's not typical that I'm going to be able to do that with
Sure.
everybody.
Sure.
But with this individual, he had a good metabolism and he wanted to fucking work, and he had a really good work ethic. So I was like, all right, dog, I'm going to put it on you. And I put it on him. And then within those fucking 2 weeks, he put like 5-6 pounds of lean fucking body mass, and he looked more plump. His muscles looked fucking bigger. And he was like, fuck, my posture's better. And he was skeptical too. The fucker was skeptical. Paid me a lot of money, but he was fucking skeptical. And he was at the end of it, he was like, holy shit. Okay, this fucking works. I'm sold. I'm convinced. And so what I find utterly fascinating is that I know these guys that will criticize me, will throw all this shade my way and talk all this shit and be like, oh man, he gets this wrong and that wrong. Bro, I could literally get the results that you get working with somebody for 4 years in probably a month. Just give me a month. If you give me 20 sessions in a fucking month with the client, I will get better results with you in that time. If you work with them 3-4 days a week for the next 4 years, I will get better results than you within a matter of a month. Fucking easy. If you add in my technology, my inventions that I'm going to have, it's just going to be fucking, you can't, it's impossible to recreate what's there. Mike, you'll be experiencing it here pretty soon. It's impossible to recreate what's there. It's
That'd be
impossible.
insane.
It's like the barriers to entry now are no longer, hey, the hip moves in relation to this leg kicking back here while I'm using this pulling machine. The barriers to entry are, okay, now I have to, for one, I have to make the money. For one, I have to be able to get people convinced enough to want to buy into what I have to. For one, I have to create a method that actually works and it scales to multiple people, right? Then I have to make money on that, and then I have to save that fucking money, and then I have to think about, okay, where am I going to invest that money, right? So then eventually I have to you have to invest that money, but then you have to find that money who's the right people to invest that money to.
Right.
And then after that, you then have to be able to find those people. You have to go through painstaking amounts of bullshit, filtering out so many shitheads that don't do the
For
fucking work that they're supposed to do.
sure.
And it's years and years and years of bullshit trying to understand human psychology. And then at the same time,
Totally.
it's like developing a relationship with a woman. You have to say, hey, look, here are, or with the man as well. It's like, here are my boundaries, right? These are the boundaries. What do you value? What do I value? Is this going to be the right thing or not? And then once you find out that you do have the same values, it's like, okay, what are the accountability measures that I have to put on this person? What's the order in which things need to be conducted in order to get us to actually getting a project done? Okay, then you have to also calculate how long is it actually going to be able to take to get this project off the fucking ground based upon what I'm unaware of here, 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 and here. And then once you make those forecasts, you then have to go through all this shit to realize, motherfucker, I didn't account for this fucking substrate. I didn't account for this composite material here. We didn't account for this part of the process, this part of the fucking engineering. And then I have to talk to the engineers as well and tell them, hey, no, this was actually fucking 1 inch too far to the right. It needs to be 1 inch to the left. And if I don't communicate this correctly to the engineer, and I'm not very specific, then they don't do what's supposed to be fucking done. And then it doesn't get fucking done. And then once you have to deal with the machinists themselves, you have to be like, okay, look, can this machinist themselves, can this guy manage people? Because if they can't, and they allow their workers to just party whenever they want because the guy at the top is kind of partying, now when this person said there's a deadline, when the thing has to get fucking done, now the thing doesn't get done because he doesn't have workers because the workers were all fucking hungover, and now the project has to get delayed another fucking 2 weeks. In order to be able to circumnavigate all of that shit, all of that shit, you have to know that's just a small sample of it, guys. Just a
For
small
sure.
fucking sample of it.
Hmm.
Forget me telling somebody, hey, shift your hips laterally, or hike up your right hip fucking 4 degrees, and then kick your fucking extend your right femur 4 degrees. It's like That's just like the superficial layer. That's the easy shit. All
Mhm.
this other shit that I had to do was ridiculous. And then on top of that, I have to earn the trust of people for them to want to stick around with me. How long you been around for, Mike? Probably
I
eight,
guess
over 8
8 years
years.
approximately.
Yeah, it's over 8 years. We're in 2000 fucking
Yeah,
25. You were around like 2017. You may
insane.
have been around, right? So you have to be able to actually get people to believe in you that fucking long. So you have to be
Sure,
able to fucking perform and continuously evolve your shit over
totally.
fucking time. So that's the kicker when it comes to all this shit. So guys, when somebody's throwing these fucking criticisms at me, I'm hoping that after I explained all this shit that I have to go through, because look, I'm not Elon. I'm the actual inventor here. I'm the guy actually creating the fucking things. These visualizations come from my fucking brain, and I don't rely on the engineers to figure all that shit out. I have to tell them, hey, that when you make this, this is how it has to be oriented. They give me a basic sketch, and I'm like, no, that's all wrong. This is how it needs to be fucking done. So I have to be the one guiding all the fucking traffic. I am the actual fucking inventor, and I'm the fucking entrepreneur. And I'm the scientist as well. I have to be the scientist. I'm all of the fucking above. So you have to understand that when somebody is saying, hey, look, Naudi is wrong, they have to go through all of that shit. And if you're somebody that wants to fucking second guess me and my capabilities, you have to understand this is very important. You're going to have to go through all of that shit to try and fucking surpass me. I'm not saying this to talk shit. I'm just telling you this is the fucking reality check. I came from fucking making $700, $600 a month trying to live in San Diego, California, right? Operating on fucking nothing, right? To doing what I have with my fucking company. And Max Emmett Wright's been here since 2016. You've evolved and grown exponentially. Insane work ethic. Yeah, bro. That you understand that. And Max, you're a fucking savage. Like the savages of FP know what the fucking deal is. I'm seeing over here Danny Hung giving mad fucking props. Dude's a fucking straight savage, fucking monster, fucking savage. Mike, you're right here right now. It's like here it is. Look, Danny Hung. Here's praise from a fucking gangster. It's crazy now that you can do scientist, innovator, and entrepreneur at the same time. Props from a fucking gangster ass motherfucker like Danny Hung. Props from guys like Louis Ellery. Fucking gangster monsters. It's like you guys are fucking savages, absolute savages. Luis Ponce, here's another fucking monster. Just fucking monsters in FP that are snipers, just fucking sniping left and fucking right.
What are you feeling?
Not, oh, how do I manipulate social media to try and get more fucking people? It's more like I'm boots on the ground and I have to talk to people and I have to engage with them and try and get them interested in functional patterns, and I got to try and get results with them. Most of these other fuckers are sitting here. If a person makes a video, let me put it this way, guys. If a person has to make a video about why they left FP, what it tells you is that boots on the ground, they can't deal with customers and they can't scale up their fucking operation. That's why they have to go back on social media to get their shit going. I had my clientele. I had a six-figure income before I even fucking came on to the scene in functional patterns. By the time it was around 20, what was it? I didn't start making money through courses until about, I think it was like 20, late 2013. Nah, I didn't even make a single profit in 2013. I didn't make anything. Like it literally, all my money went into fucking traveling expenses and fucking like I didn't make any fucking money. I didn't start making any money until about like late 2014. But prior to that, I had clients. It's like I had no, I had what was it? Let me go back. 2009, 2010, I had probably like a good six-figure income, and then 2011, I completely fucked myself over. I completely fucked myself and said I want to train fighters. I want to go into training the martial arts and train athletes and see what the fuck I can do. That's what I did at that time. And then I struggled for a while longer, and I did this whole internet thing. But before I did the internet thing, I made money independently without having. I made money training clients at their house. I had great, in many regards, I regret it because I had such great clients. I'm going to try and open up a facility in that same neighborhood to see if I can bring these fuckers back in because I want to train them again. I want to help these same people because they were fucking amazing clients, bro. My clients were so dope, Mike. I had such great clients, bro. They were amazing clients, just so dope. So super appreciative, and they were willing to want to do all this corrective work back in 2009, bro. 2010, when I was like doing dog shit training, corrective exercise relative to what we're doing now. I'd love to actually give them a significantly better service than what I had before. So it's like if you have these guys that are saying, oh, this is why I'm not an FP. This is why I don't like functional patterns. This is my opinion on functional patterns. You have to realize that boots on the ground, these people can't train for shit. They can't work with anybody. They don't understand the hustle. They don't understand the fucking grind involved with actually having to change people. So what do? They have to rely on being influencers on social media because they're fucking awkward. Because nobody who's smart, nobody who makes money in this world, nobody who has to hold a job who has to do real fucking work is going to look at these guys and be like, well, this guy seems like he's fucking competent. I'm going to spend my money on them. Anybody who actually understands what accountability is not going to want to engage with these fuckers. So that's it. That's plainly it. This cynical version of me, guys, I'm not going to bring him back probably for like another 4 months or 5 months when the next fucking jack off decides to say something and to talk some bullshit or whatever the fuck and say, oh, now he's got this wrong or got that wrong. Fucking the USPTO is gonna fucking tell you I got something. The USPTO is just gonna tell me that what I created was original. The consumer base and the science that follows after that and the scientific studies that are conducted after that are gonna be like, oh, this motherfucker was a gangster. That's probably what's gonna happen. More than likely, that's what's gonna fucking happen. So I think my reputation is fucking pretty much solidified. So if you're gonna tell me I'm wrong about some shit, please believe this. You're making substantial claims, so you better be ready to provide substantial fucking evidence to back up those fucking claims. Because if you don't, then sorry, bro. It's people aren't gonna buy into any of that shit. So yeah, I'm not. So to any of you that are new here, you're like that are wondering why is Nowdy going so fucking ham or whatever, I'm going ham because I have to do this periodically to remind people to be. I'm saving people in FP. I'm saving people that are in functional patterns that are in the ecosystem that might be saying like, man, there's got to be an easier way than having to work hard and thinking. There's got to be a better way than thinking hard about trying to solve these problems. There's got to be a better way. And what I'm saying is that there's no better way than thinking hard about solving your problems. It's figuring yourself out is complex work. It's difficult, and it's like this is how I'll summarize it. Don't pray for an easy life. Pray for the strength and resilience to endure a difficult one. Bruce Lee, he's the guy that said that. If you need to actually create a resilient mind, you need to create a resilient fucking body. You need to create objectivity in your brain. That's what you need. And so if you're new here and you're wondering why I'm going so ham, it's just this might seem like a slam dunk to you. It'd be like where you'll say, "Man, this just makes so much sense." Nowdy, I don't want to see you like this fucking like uppity or whatever. Just understand that there are people that are on the other side of this that have the same goals, right? But they're thinking about this more as a business than they are actually being somebody who's trying to solve problems. They're more concerned with trying to be an influencer on social media than they are actually trying to fix problems with you. Before I even got on social media, I thought Facebook was stupid. I liked YouTube, but I had no aspirations of starting a YouTube channel. And I could have started. I was very much. I was one of the first adopters of YouTube. Were you, Mike, or what was your deal? As soon as YouTube came out, did you adopt it pretty quick or no?
No, not that quick. No, I was definitely resistant as well. I thought Facebook was stupid, and then I eventually, got on.
What about YouTube? So YouTube? It took you a while to get onto YouTube as well, or
A
no?
little bit. I didn't use YouTube that much. I don't know. I don't
See,
remember when I hopped on,
bro, for
but yeah.
me, I was on Google Video. Um, well, let me put it this way: I was on LimeWire and all these other like downloading apps because
Oh
I'd be
yeah,
trying to download shit constantly, like
sure,
any documentaries or whatever.
sure.
And then like that was part of it. And then the other parts were like eventually Google Video came out, and I would go on Google Video and try and find everything. I don't remember what date that was. The
Damn,
day that YouTube came out, I was just like, I'm gonna look at every fucking thing that I could possibly watch. I would just watch everything that I could possibly watch that I found to be
damn,
interesting to me. So I was an early adopter of YouTube. I had no aspirations, despite the fact that I was a pretty good trainer. I had no aspirations of saying there was fitness YouTubers as
sure.
well. Like there was people that were back in 2006, I think, is there was YouTubers that were there. Um, lots of there was like YouTube, all kinds of fitness people, and I would look at what they would do, and I was like, okay. I was like, I'm not gonna make a YouTube channel. What would I like? What the fuck would I have to offer? This would be stupid. I'm like, I'm not gonna start a YouTube channel. So before I even consider starting a YouTube channel, I was like, I need to develop something that's actually worth the shit to put out there. And let me put it this way: it was original enough to call my own to do that. But what I find out of some of these fuckers, it's like literally they're just trying to be a carbon copy of what FP is, and they're gonna don't like my whole thing is that if you're gonna take my first principles and then tell me that I'm wrong, and then not have a discussion with me about what I'm wrong about, and then tell other people that shit, I'm sorry, bro, but you're a piece of shit. In my world, you're a fucking piece of shit. It's like if you're gonna tell other people that I'm wrong about something and say, "Oh yeah, now he's wrong about this," or the way that the functional patterns guys do this is fucking wrong. And when I teach somebody this, they're like, "Oh wow, that's totally the way that it's supposed to be." It's like, "Hey, let me. I'm gonna go on one more tirade. If you got to go to bed, go ahead, Mike. But I got to go on another tirade here."
I'm here for it.
Okay, look, guys. There are. I'm just gonna say it directly. There's a guy that talks about moving your head over your foot. Okay, he's made this claim for the longest time, and I'm like, okay, cool. There seems to be something there. However, there are so many joints and so many places of force that go on your body between your head and your foot. And the frontal plane, when a body is moving in the sagittal plane, there are multiple, it doesn't just like, there's more dimensions than just a frontal plane when you're moving forward and back. And really the most important plane is the transverse plane of motion.
Sure.
And so somebody can see something and be right about it, right?
Sure.
But then at the same time, not get any fucking results and not fix
Yeah.
anything on anybody. And then they end up with
Mhm.
their own fucking problems with their own method, with their own
Yes.
joints, right?
Yes.
So just
Yes.
because somebody appears to be correct by what they do, let me put it this way. Let's say I have there's a fucking I have a target on my wall here, right? Let's say that target is in diameter. Let's say that it's a 20-foot target that covers my entire wall, right?
Yeah.
I could take a gun and go boing, and I'm like,
Right.
hey, look, bing, look, I hit the target. I'm there. So if somebody
Right.
says, hey, bow your fucking knees out, inside ankle bone high, if somebody says some shit like that, it's like, okay, there might be some relevance to what you're saying, kind of, but I think you're actually,
Sure.
if you go inside, if you go with that bowed knee, you're probably actually hypermobile in your knee. You're probably
Yeah.
actually hypermobile, and that's not the right geometric formation of the knee. But let's just say, let me just give you that potential argument because I don't really fully buy into the shit that they say. Because when I look at healthy legs, I don't see fucking bowed fucking knees. I don't see bow-legged knees. I know I've had people in FP that are bow-legged, and they are fucked up, like completely fucked up. And so anyway, um, let's say that let's just give it to them and say, hey, look, you hit the target. But I'm like, okay, if you hit that target and it's like fucking like if we're talking about a diameter of 20 feet and I'm like 10 feet away from it, that's not impressive, and it's not specific enough to help people actually fix their fucking problems. So you could be right enough to hit the target that's fucking 10 feet, but can you hit a target that's the diameter of 5 inches? Not even fucking close. When it comes to having to have the level of precision that reality requires for you to actually solve a problem, you are not going to even be remotely fucking close with your
For
calculation.
sure.
So even if you are correct, the problem with that correctness is that there is not enough precision to account for what's going to happen in reality. So the degree of problems you're going to be able to fix is going to be limited by how much the person's body is going to change.
Totally.
And so if you just nudge somebody that much to be move slightly better, but then you don't get them to go the full way through, then you haven't solved the problem, which is what I'm focusing on.
Right.
So when somebody tells me, look, Nowdy, you're wrong, I'm like, yeah, bro, great job. Of course I'm wrong. If I was right, then I would already look like Bo Jackson, you
Right.
fuckface. So obviously I'm wrong. I never tell anybody, hey, I'm
Right.
right. I'm less wrong. I'll say that.
Right.
But when it's all said and done, I'm like, I know I don't have this completely figured out, which is why I'm developing all this shit to try and figure it out. I'm giving it my best fucking shot, and the results speak for themselves. Now the results are almost becoming a redundancy, and people don't even like engaging with them on
For
social media because we just
sure.
have so many of them. We have so many fucking results. They just keep pouring in. So clearly, if this is wrong, then why are people getting better? Why do they look physically better? Why are they running faster? Why do we have some people that look like goobers on a before sprinting? You saw that Nick Gasvik video. I didn't even notice that one, bro.
Yeah.
It's just like there's
Yeah.
so many of these results that just like pop up, and you're like, some of them are like slight note. You can notice like a slight mod. If you have a sharp eye, you'll see a
Sure.
significant difference.
Sure.
But if you're a layman, you're going to be like, are they that big of a difference? But you look at that Nick Gasvick result, and you're like, Jesus, bro, that's like a massive result,
For
massive
sure.
change. And so when these guys say, "Oh, Nowdy is wrong," it's like, yeah, no, duh, I'm wrong, bro. I already know that I'm wrong, and I've known that I've been wrong since I started my career in since 2005, 2006. I've known I've been wrong from the very first day that I've been in my career. At some point, this guy probably thought that he was right about what he's doing. And so he's still stuck on that shit today.
Right.
I wasn't really stuck on that shit fucking 15 years ago. I wasn't stuck on that. It's not, I get things wrong. Of course I get things wrong, but I'm correcting for it. And if I wasn't, then I wouldn't be fixing people. And if I wasn't, I wouldn't be having these fucking multiple people that are fucking like, of the athletes that I've actually been involved in, like they don't really lose very often if I'm involved with them.
Right.
In fact, they barely fucking lose whenever I'm fully involved in
For sure.
in the process.
For
I have a
sure.
very good track record, and they don't get injured either. Clearly, if I was wrong about things, and maybe let me put it this way. Let me give the guy the benefit of the doubt. He'll say, "Hey, now he's right about some things, but there's some things that he's wrong about." No shit, you're still in this box, motherfucker, right? And you can't get out of that box. I already know you can't get out of that fucking box. You have no idea. I already know that you can't get out of that box. I know it because I understand the intricacy that's involved in this fucking thing and that you can't cheat reality. And if you're a fucking bullshitter, if you're full of shit, then when it's all said and done, you're not gonna like. If you're full of shit, nature filters out people that are full of shit. And I could see when somebody's completely, clearly, and utterly full of shit. If you have to be on social media and you have to try and snipe getting FP practitioners and convince FP practitioners that they need to work with you, why do they need to try and get FP practitioners as clients, Mike, if they're trying to sell themselves? Why do they need to do that?
Because they're not training your average person. They're not getting clients themselves.
So guess what you have to do? You're like, oh God, I got to go a little bit more highbrow because I suck. When you don't suck, you can get if a regular person can't understand what you're teaching them and you can't fix them, what that pretty much means is that you suck. That's what the fuck it means. If an average, that's what it means. If an average Joe can't clearly get the benefits and you're not showcasing results with those average Joes, and you have to deal with somebody who's more committed in order to get the results, it's because you fucking suck. I just plainly speak it that way. If the person's showing up, if they're showing up and they're participating in the sessions and you're training them and you're working with, if you're training them and they're working with you and they're giving it their all in their sessions and they're kind of, at least to some degree, taking time off, you should be able to get a result. Like, bro, if I train a client, even if they're not fully committed, I can get some fucking good results out of people that aren't that committed. I can get really good results with them just because I know my shit. To some degree, I know my shit. So, guys, I make these videos. I go ham like this, so you guys understand. Hey, look, if you're listening to me and if you're following functional patterns, understand that there's like there's like a progression here, right? Understand that there's an end of the road here, and the end of that road has functionality in it. And Project Function is fucking coming, and there's a bunch of dope shit that's coming. If you want to experiment with the rest of these fucking guys that are in the industry that are like, oh look, I have my, if you want to engage with the fitness novelty machine, I don't suggest it, but if you want to, the world's your oyster. If you're an FP practitioner, just don't post about it online. I get a sense that there's like there's it's like if I don't engage like this, Mike, it's almost like people are like, it's like, oh look, now he's kind of like weak, so now like now we can kind of like uh when the cat goes away, all the mice come out to play, kind of thing. The rats go out and
Totally.
fucking begin to play, right?
Yeah.
It's unfortunate because it's like you want to be kind with people, you want to be nice, you want to be like cordial, you want to do all these fucking things with people, but it's like people don't work that way oftentimes, unfortunately. Like in order to discipline them, you have to be somewhat militant with the way that you fucking do things. So I think this video was useful for the sake of getting that to happen. And look, I understand I'm crazy. I understand, guys. I understand I'm crazy. I am fucking crazy. You have to be fucking crazy to be this obsessed about this. But I don't think I'm crazy because of what I'm pursuing. I think what I'm pursuing is so intrinsically valuable that you're fucking crazy for not wanting to pursue it to the same degree that
For
I
sure.
am. It's as simple as that. So I think that pretty much covers it. I think the people know who who the individuals are that I'm referring to in this industry when it comes to this shit. People talk shit. Just understand that, guys. People are gonna talk shit on me. if they don't have an fp.evidence page, right? Just go onto the Instagram and go to the search bar and just put at fp.evidence. fp.evidence. If they don't have a page like that of their own, they suck. It's a simple, or maybe they don't suck, but they're not on the level. And it took a long time for me to culminate that for me to find the right types of people and teach them the right types of thing, for them to do the work, for me to found a community of bad motherfuckers that get these results. Monsters, fucking monsters. We have so many fucking monsters in this goddamn community that get it. And let me take it a step further. I want to take this a step further. If you think that you're one of these influencers and you're going to be able to compete with Mike, good luck. Good luck competing with Mike Musiolo. Good luck. If you think you're going to be able to compete with Alejandro Stefanidis, good luck. If you think you're going to compete with other people that are in FP right now, good fucking luck. Pack a fucking lunch because these motherfuckers are down for the cause, and they're going to. I don't have to eat your breakfast, bro. They're going to eat all of your fucking breakfast. They're going to. I don't have to put my straw in your and fucking drink your fucking milkshake. Fucking all these guys right here, fucking Louis Ellery, Max Emmett, Danny Hung, fucking Molly Ponce, they're all Rajat, right? Everybody's just gonna go like this. I drink your fucking milkshake. Shannon Haggerty, right there. Martina Aguilar, right fucking there. Gonna stew, line, they're gonna drip all of the fucking milkshake because they're gonna be opening up project function facilities and they're gonna be having hundreds of fucking people in these facilities. And there's gonna be hundreds of people that get ridiculous, way better results than what they were fucking getting before because they're gonna be able to practice all this shit and then some later on down the fucking life. Later on down the track. So that's what it's going to be. You don't have to compete with me. So guys, tell me, who do they have to compete with? You guys tell me. Where's the competition? Are they competing with me or who are they competing with, guys? Can you remind everybody in the comment section, who are they competing with? These fucking so-called influencers, are they competing with me? Who are they competing with? Can you guys remind them? I just want to see in the comment. Mike, who are they competing with? Can you let them know?
This
Good
guy
luck.
right here. That's who they're competing with.
Good luck, motherfucker. Good luck. Exactly. You got to compete with Mike. Have fun with that. You got to compete with my boy Rodney, right? You got to compete with John Nielsen, Pablo Martin, Andrea. You got to compete, Rowie. You got to compete with all of these. This is what you got to go against, bro. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. If you want to sit here and talk all this shit, if you want to sit here and be like, oh yeah, fucking FP is fucking. Oh, Naudi gets this wrong, bro. You don't even realize it. You don't even realize what you're saying, but you're going to. You're going to, and I'm just telling you. Look, I'm not like I don't want to say this to be like, hey, look, if you can't beat them, join them. You're not going to beat us, and it's probably going to be wiser to just join. It's like I don't know. Maybe just find another career. Maybe that might just be the better thing. They might just have to find another career. I think honestly, bro, if I'm just keeping it fucking 100%, I just think they have to find another
For
career.
sure.
I don't think this was for them. Let me put it this way: if you can't work with people, boots on the ground, like let me explain more. Let me explain more because I just got to. It just keeps like we just keep peeling this onion, Mike.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We just keep peeling it.
Mm-hmm.
There is saturation going on social media,
Yeah.
guys. There's a saturation.
Big time.
People aren't. How many new influencers are there now that are in fitness right now, Mike? That you've seen? How many
It's
new ones?
absurd. It's absurd how many
You see
pop
new
up all the
ones?
time. Well, I mean, not new ones, but I just mean like like I'll see someone with like 600,000 followers or like whatever. I'm just surprised that there is as many as there
But
are.
bro, they're not. Let me put. I look around, Mike. Look, hold on. You're not getting what I'm saying, bro. Like, pay attention to this, Mike, because it's important, bro. And everybody else, pay attention to this. The industry is getting burned out.
Right.
What's the new novelty, Mike? It was ice baths for a
Yeah.
while. It was going carnivore for a while, going on a carnivore diet. Both fine, okay. Grounding, right?
Yep.
Morning sun, right? Red light therapy, all this. What's happening, bro? Is there anything new coming into the industry now?
There's
It's
not.
all done. It's all been done, and it's not going to recycle for a while, bro. It's going to
For
take like
sure.
another 7 to 10 years before it fucking recycles. So
Yeah.
the age of the influencer, guys, is as close to being dead as possible. And you know, you think Mike? What do you think? Do you think I knew this before or not? What do you think? Why?
I have a
Why do
feeling
you
you
think
may have known
the
before.
fact that we're going to have gyms, right?
Right.
That was
Right.
by design,
Right.
guys. That was by
Yes.
design. I was aware of this way back in the fucking day. I was aware of this a long time ago, and I was like, this is all going to burn out. And the reason that it's going to burn out is because people are like, they're going to realize that they just can't trust everybody anymore. They're going to be like none of this shit works.
Right.
They're eventually going to be like, none of this works. Like we keep doing all this shit, it just doesn't fucking work. So we got to go towards something that works. You know what's starting to spike up in terms of trends, Mike? Because this is what I'm a CEO, so I have to understand market trends because I have to understand attribution. What do you think is having the biggest resurgence right now that died over the last 10 years, Mike? What would
Is
you
it
guess?
posture?
No,
Um,
gyms, gyms.
of course.
So if you can't deal with people in person, Mike, then guess what happens? You get pushed aside. It
Time.
doesn't work anymore. People are going back to the gym because they tried the CrossFit, they tried the yoga, right?
Right.
They're trying the Pilates and it's not working. So guess what they have to start thinking about doing now? They have to start thinking about going like, hmm, I got to go back to using gym equipment. I got to go back to using gym machines because it's more basic and it's more
Right.
tolerable on my fucking joints than doing this CrossFit.
Totally.
That's where we're going back to, guys. This is where it's coming back to. So the age of the influencer is dying. It's been exhausted. The dopamine, the fitness novelty machine is dying. It's fucking dead, is what I'm saying. And the only people that are going to make it in this field are the ones that can service people boots on the ground. Because what are people starving more than ever for? What are people starving for more than ever, Mike, after the pandemic?
Connection to other people.
And you know what's interesting? There's a big trend in spas. Like Mark Cuban and all these investors are investing in saunas, ice baths, these big fucking spas, these solariums. These already exist
Totally.
in Europe. They're just copying Europe.
Of
I've
course.
been
Of
when I
course.
was in fucking Germany and shit. I've already done all this shit when I was over in Europe. This was like fucking 10 years ago when I was out there. I already saw this. That's gonna peak. It's gonna plateau because saunas and ice baths only go so far.
For sure.
So people have done the fasting. People have
Yep.
done the peptides. Would you hear anybody talking about peptides anymore, Mike?
No,
Nobody's talking about peptides
they
anymore,
aren't.
right? TRT, anybody talking about that? Not
No.
really. It seems to all be kind of like, we've kind of heard it all the supplements, all this shit. Everybody's kind of like, we've already been supplemented out, but we're tired of all this shit. Let's go back to the fucking gym. That's what it's going to end up being, bro. And so people want connections and they want to go to places, people want to socialize and they want to socialize in places where there can be functionality embedded into the culture. And that's where Project Function comes in. It's just reality, folks. It's just reality. And the thing, and look, I've only been predicting this since about like 2011 on social media. I've only been predicting it for about like almost 15 years. And so I knew that people were going to burn out. Honestly, I will say this. I will say this. I thought people would burn out faster. I didn't realize that people would be this resilient, or there would be so many different ways of overcompensating the way
No
that people
kidding.
do.
Yeah, it's so true.
I never thought that. I never thought it would be like that. But the linear regression that I saw, it made sense. And that's the whole thing. People are increasingly becoming through all this weird shit that's been going on. What you're seeing is that people are becoming more and more neurodivergence is starting to become a more common theme within
Yeah.
people. And so
Yeah.
there's this thing called genetic entropy. And so the more that generate like so the more as people have kids, all the behaviors that they adopt to some degree end up getting programmed into their offspring. And all the things that were really useful for us that kept us together have slowly been deteriorating on the next generation. We're in that generation now. When you look at Gen Z, this is why they kind of look like zombies.
Yeah.
They look like zombies because the genes forgot all of this shit that their predecessors had.
For sure.
And these fucking social media apps have been erasing everything. And then never mind that they try all these trends, they try all these things, and their bodies are going to be completely fucked. They'll be completely broken
Completely.
down. I'm just saying, guys. It's like some people have called me Nostradamus for a reason. You've seen it for a while, Mike. How many of the things that I've talked about in this industry have kind of become true, bro?
Man, it's been crazy. It's been crazy. I've just had to sit tight and watch it unfold, honestly.
It's a bummer. I mean, who knows? I mean, who knows how long it'll take, man? But like I said, I do. My biggest concern is making sure that we have already facilities ready to rock. We're getting the franchising disclosures done for Project Function, end of this month. It's already fucking like set up. Like everything's being set up on that front, and then the technology is already fucking it's already coming. It's already coming together. I will be sending out an invite. Let me just put this announcement out there for everybody that's an FP. We're gonna send out official invites for those of you that have been down for the cause that we know are fucking serious about opening up facilities or are supportive to facilities. We'll be sending out an invite. It should be to about, I guess, like 250 people. So we should probably have 250 people at Project Function headquarters in Las Vegas. I would guess sometime in
Damn.
late April or May. It should be a big fucking group of people. How many people want to come? Let me. I want to know in the comments. You guys want to come over to Project? Who wants to come to Project Function? Who? Does anybody want to come to Project Function?
Oh
Anybody?
man. Oh man.
It's gonna be dope. I'm telling you guys, it's fucking sick. It really is. I can finally look at what I've done in my life and be like, well, that's not a piece of shit. You know, like most of the things that I create, I'm like, yeah, that's cool, but that's kind of a piece of shit. That's a piece of shit. It's like I've done some decent work, but I think I finally did something excellent. I feel like I got like, like imagine that you have like a musician who's been like fucking making music for like whatever, like 10, 15 years or some
Yes.
shit like that, and they finally get their
Sure.
fucking hit record.
Yes.
Yeah. Fucking Lewis. Eh, if I have to, I guess. Motherfucker, yeah,
Ah,
whatever.
that's a good
No,
one.
but I mean, it's gonna be the shit, guys. It's gonna be fucking amazing. And so I'm like, I'm really looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to seeing everybody's eyes light up
Totally.
because that always happens. Any HBS courses, people are just like, oh my god. Oh, this last time when I showed people a few of it, it was funny. Like one of the fucking technologies that I showed them what it was, and everybody was like, like, oh shit, like it was fucking funny, bro. It's just funny. It's like hearing the reactions, and I try not to, I try and stay calm or whatever. I try and
Sure.
stay calm,
Sure.
but it's just funny to watch, man. It's crazy.
It's
but uh
amazing.
but yeah, let me put it this way: if you're on the other side of FP, like you have to realize it's not just me anymore, guys. There's a whole fucking, it's an army at this fucking point, and we're talking special ops, human biomechanics specialists. That's really what it is. Um,
Definitely.
I don't like I want to create like what's it called? I want to extend olive branches everywhere that I can, but unfortunately in this system it doesn't work that way. And some of these people just have to I mean, what's the problem with finding another job? That's the question. Like what is it? I guess just some people want to operate as influencers the rest of their fucking life and they
Sure.
want to keep doing that.
Yeah.
I don't, bro, it's such a grind. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I have to make sure that I'm like, hey, look, I have to make sure I put up my post today on social media and like, all right, I did
Yeah.
my part. It's so fucking redundant, bro.
It
I'm like,
is.
who wants to do that shit? Like, I don't want to do that. Like, you know what my objective is, Mike? My objective is very simple. What I would like to do more than anything, brother, more than anything, is just to get 30, 40 facilities up. That's what I want to do. And then after that, it's just like, sayonara. I'm done. Bye. And then from there, we just spread. Just like it's just like on a fucking map, and we're like, bing, ding, 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 and then we just do that, and we just do it without having to fucking be connected to social media at all or any of this shit.
Totally.
People need to have in-person connection to things, and that make them function better. And I just don't want to be connected to this, man. It's just like, who wants to be an influencer? Like it's an insane pursuit.
It
Like if you
really
want to have
is.
status, like my perspective is this, Mike. I'm like, it would make more sense to me. Like my favorite time of my life, bro. The time that I felt, other than now, I'll say this. No, I've had a good life. I've always my life in general, it's been a grind, but I've had a pretty fucking good life. But my favorite time was back when I was at a corporate gym and I had colleagues that I could get along with, and we'd shoot the shit and we'd joke around or whatever the fuck, and we'd pat each other on the back when we did a good fucking job, and we were supportive of each other. And if we were like had a problem with the client, we'd ask for like advice on how to like deal with that problem or whatever. And then like the fucking there'd be the weekend, and you'd be like, hey, look, bro, I'm gonna get the fights this week. And then like the people from the fucking staff, we'd get together and we'd all go watch a fight together or whatever the fuck. fucking we eat chicken wings at their spot or whatever. I'm sure there's healthier ways. We've done that before, Mike.
Yeah,
There's healthy ways of chilling. And
definitely.
so, like, or we all, like, now I would imagine, you'd go to the beach. Everybody would go to the beach. We'd all get sun together. We'd throw a football. We'd get a soccer ball or whatever the fuck. We just play. Like, what could be better, as I'm thinking about it, than having a fucking environment where you're connected to people that are just constantly uplifting each other, constantly nurturing each other. There's no injuries. It's just constant positive affirmations, positive flow of fucking fluid transfer, all kinds of shit. Maybe that last part's not fluid transfer. I'm not saying it from a sexual perspective. I'm saying it from like the fucking from the periosteal fascia or whatever. I'm speaking in terms of having a community where people like are encouraging one another on a regular basis.
That's right.
On a regular basis,
Yeah.
everything's oriented around wanting to
Yes.
solve problems, and people are always focused on getting better. And never mind all that, they're having the time of their fucking life while they're doing it. That to me is where I want to go. That's the next transition. How fast it happens, we'll see. Mike, you're already like how FP Santa Monica seems to be bubbling
That's
pretty well, right?
that's why I wanted a facility, and now more than ever before, it's an environment of learning. Another absolute savage monster soldier general, Joe Greco. Samantha Smith is with us. So we just really have a bunch of monster trainers. Daniel Morgan. In terms of like that ecosystem of learning and observing and sharing ideas, and what you said is, it's like we'll play basketball, there's beach volleyball, but there's always that like accountability where it's like, well, we're not doing it because we want to just do it. It's like there's always an observation. There's always, here's what I really like, there's a lot of reflective conversations about why we're doing what we're doing, and there's always a reason for it that it sets us up for this growth mindset
You,
and
you,
this
you know,
feedback system.
I think we might be able to call it a spiritual experience, Mike.
Yeah, it
It
really
might
does.
almost be like that, bro. It's like you're it's like an existential connection with each other. You
For
get what I'm
sure.
saying?
For
I
sure.
might use the fucking word and be like, yeah, it's kind of a spiritual experience, because anytime that you hear somebody use the term spirituality, it's always about trying to be uplifted and trying to engage in altruism with each
Certainly.
other. Is that not pretty much what it is?
It does feel sacred,
Yes.
when we're in the studio, and there's a feel, these people take their jobs very seriously. And I have to say, I have quite a deep appreciation for that. And it's definitely been an influence on me. And, when I'm walking across the street to work every day, it really does feel like history in the making. I have to say, it's like I'm showing up today, I'm showing up the next day, I'm showing up the next day, I'm showing up the next day, and it's this brick by brick by brick by brick that is the journey of the progression of functional patterns, and it feels pretty fucking crazy, I have to say.
Yeah, man. That's where I'm like one track minded on that specific thing.
Totally.
So my objective is just to try. I want to make people happy.
Yeah.
That's like my next thing, and I feel like I can do that. I'll be able to minimize the frustration and maximize the happiness, because I feel like in so many ways, in so many ways, it's like people have been promised all these things, that life was going to be better, that after we develop all this fucking technology, these social media apps, these electric cars and shit, that everything was going to be fucking great. But when you think about it, how much of people's lives are just fucking empty? And
Yeah, very much so.
and so what I gather out of it is, and I think that this is a lot of times what people would criticize people in FP for, is like, look, people are happy, people are enjoying their fucking
For
lives
sure.
in FP. They're in this community and they're like, dude, they love this shit.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, it's one of those circumstances where they're like, dude, I like they found something that works for them. And the amount that people in some circles judge that experience, and they're like, well, you're just engaging in sheep behavior or whatever the fuck it may be. And I'm like, is it that they're engaging in sheep behavior, or is it just that they're satisfied?
Yeah.
Like, why can't you just acknowledge their experience? Why do you have to shit on their experience? Is the question, right? Like, what exactly, like, is it possible that if you relinquished yourself from your what I see is potentially your shackles,
Right.
that if you had joined what we're
Hmm.
doing, that you might feel happy. How do you know that what you're holding on to isn't obstructing you from truly being able to find some kind of self-actualization? Because I believe that that's what we're
Totally.
helping people build is self-actualization. So yeah, there's just a lot of good to come around. So when it's all said and done, yes, we have to compete. We have to compete on the free market. It's capitalism. It is what it is. And there's going to be people that are going to say all kinds of negative things about me, or people negative things about people in the functional patterns community. That's going to happen. But when it's all said and done, the objective is to try and like systemize health.
That's
That's
right.
really what it is.
That's right.
Systemize true health.
Yes.
Get to a closer approximation as to what actual health is.
Yes.
Because if we don't get to that place, we're never going to figure this out. Like if you
That's
look at
right.
the United States deficit, I've been talking about this shit for the longest fucking time. What's awesome is I'm seeing like popular influencers talking about the deficit and that there's poor health, and they're kind of starting to finally mirror my sentiments about this.
Totally.
However, their solutions are get into a sauna. Their solutions are get into an ice bath. Their solutions are do cardio, the same shit. Discipline yourself,
Or
but it's
they
kind of
just say,
like,
my favorite is when they just tell people to sprint. And then literally in the comments, what if my knees hurt when I sprint? What if my lower back hurts? And it's like, literally, I could screenshot it probably 100 times over. It's literally like, eat eggs, sprint, go to the sun, go to bed on time. And then everyone's like, but what if it
yeah,
hurts?
yeah, yeah. But eventually, what's going to happen, bro, is that it's kind of like just like people lost trust in the media,
Yeah,
they're going to lose trust in these influencers
they'll
as
figure
well.
it out
That
eventually.
trust is going to be lost over
Sure,
time, and they're going to start
sure.
to make the transition over
Totally,
towards
totally.
a different way of
Yes,
thinking,
yes,
because they have
yes.
to. There's just no ways around it. It's kind of like their words and their encouragement. It's like people's mindset is this, and this is part of what people the issues that people have with me. I have a problem here, and you're looking for a solution. And most of the time, what people are looking for is a simple answer. Like, I have a complicated issue. I want a simple answer for it. Okay, who in the algorithm promotes a solution? Oh, this person here? Okay, I'm going to listen to them. Okay, now I'm going to adopt that solution. It doesn't work. Now it's like, now this influencer is going to come this way. Here's a simple solution. It's like this process is consistent with people. People are always looking for simple solutions until the simple solutions just simply don't work anymore.
Totally,
And
totally.
so that's what I see. I see that people are going to get burned out.
Yeah,
They're already experiencing burnout, which is why gyms are blowing up everywhere. This is why you're
100%.
seeing gyms are expanding everywhere more than what they even were in the past. CrossFit's starting to tank. It tanked slower than I thought. I thought by 2020 it was going to go like
For
down,
sure.
but it's already in a decline.
Thank
As
God.
are a lot of these other fringe methodologies and
Sure.
systems that are out there. But we'll see
Totally.
what happens, man. We'll see what happens. I'll give it my best shot. We'll give it our best shot. I think we can probably get a significant level of growth out of what it is that we're doing, but
Yeah,
it will be a lot of work. And
for
fortunately, I
sure.
have lots of people in FP who aren't lazy,
That's
who
right.
like to work, and that's really the main thing. You know, that was an interesting thing when I was at this last HBS2 course. I'll close it off with this. This time's for real. Um, I I was like having a discussion with the class of saying like what I was talking about the purpose of life, like what the meaning of life is, and it pretty much gets summarized. There's I could talk about biological imperatives and things of that nature because we're living organisms, but essentially it narrows down to life is work and rest. That's all it is. That's essentially what life is.
For
It's
sure.
work and it's rest. It's work-life balance.
Yeah.
That's what life is.
Yep.
You tackle problems, whatever problems it is that you want to. And the thing is, it doesn't necessarily have to be a job. Let's say we reach post scarcity and we have universal basic income for everybody, and you say, well, you know what, my job is going to be learning how to play the guitar, or how to play the trumpet, or the saxophone, or my job is learning how to play basketball better and learn like strategy or whatever, or I play football. That's your job. And so you work to master that skill because it's good for your fascia, it's good for your nervous system, it's good for your biochemistry to do all these things. And then once you like practice those things, what you do is you take time off and you just rest. And while you're resting, you're just thinking about how do I get better at that thing? Like what am I missing to get better at that thing? Like I was doing a crossover, and every time I would cross over here, like this guy would always get in my way. So I need to tactically get past him so I can get better. And so that's what life ultimately ends
Oh,
up becoming. Right now,
totally.
we have it related to jobs that are more mundane,
Right.
but we have to learn to accept that for the time being before we get to do fun stuff uh, and then rest. So really, life is just about work and rest. That's all it is. And so the funny thing is, then students started chiming in, and this was the beauty in it, where there was people that were like, I used to have these pains, and it wouldn't like. There was one gal, I forgot what her name was. She was so cool, but she was like saying, she was saying like, yeah, I'm a massage therapist, and I couldn't work because my job was just beating the crap out of me, and because my body, I couldn't exert force. She looked like she probably done yoga and things like that before.
Sure.
She had an
Sure.
experience in the past of doing that, and then she's like, but after I started doing functional patterns, after I started doing all this, I could go back to work, and now I get to make more money, and I get to have more fun because I'm training people as well. But then I'm like, if I need to do massage, I can go back into my, into that bag and then start doing massage work on her. And I was like, damn. And then Elias was there. Elias was talking about like, yeah, like I was planning to find a way to like stop working and see if I could set myself up for retirement because he's a successful business person. And he's like, he's on this live right now, by the way, guys. And he was like saying, you know what? Let me see if I can bring you on, Elias. Let's bring him on real quick.
Yeah, let's go. Let's go. I just saw him recently. He came to chill in LA
Hell yeah.
after the course.
Let's see if I can get him on here. Here we go. So look, so you guys see that I'm not making it up. Here it is. Here it is. I'm hopefully Elias. I can only see the highway, not you, brother. What's up, brother?
Yo,
Uh,
what's up,
How's,
dude?
How's
how's it
everything,
going, man?
boy? I'm just
Good, dude.
coming back. I'm just coming back from work now.
Hell yeah, man. So what happened at the course? You told me something. I'm not making this up, guys. I'm not lying.
But, yeah, so basically, initially, what my thought was just to retire. I was just thinking, how am I going to set up my business so that I would retire? And then I was having back problems. Every time I would turn around, like say, for example, I got the impact driver, I got to turn around, do something, oh, my back goes out. And I was like, just ridiculous things. Like, you shouldn't hurt yourself just twisting your body. Like, it doesn't make sense.
Yep.
So as I started getting into it and learning from it started off Steve Nomuski is the man,
He
100%.
is. I 1,000% agree. Steve Nomoski's a fucking G. One of the OGs.
Exactly. So he told me, look at the way he actually explained it to me. He said, he could have just said, yeah, just come in and I'll keep training with them. He actually told me, go home, get the 10-week course, get your body, kind of start to understand what's going on, and at around week 4 to week 6, come back in. So as I started doing the MFR, probably like the first 3 weeks, I started to realize, wait a second, there's something happening here. We're getting the body to kind of get the flow up the chain, and I started like going to work. I started doing a little bit more. I wasn't feeling like I was injuring myself. And then when I went back with Steve, and after which week? Week 4, I think, is the one where people always go, oh, I'm not really doing anything here. But that's the one where you have to actually learn what we're talking about, like anterior tilt, posterior tilt,
Yes.
when you're driving, how you get your posture. This is the thing that people kind of just skim through that thinking there's no exercises.
Yep.
I'm just watching now to do something. No, it doesn't make sense. You've got to learn what he's talking about. So when I went in with Steve the second time, he started actually going through and working through what you were talking about in week 4, and we started doing all the planks, and my body just, man, retirement went straight out of my head. The good thing about it, though, is because I said I was going to retire, I set up all these good processes within the company, and then they were there, and I didn't need to retire. I was like, I can work now.
Yep.
It was the best thing ever, honestly. Like FP saved my whole body.
And
Like,
so with that in mind, you don't really want to retire at this point because it's not really necessary, right?
no. But look, the thing is, the only reason I wanted to retire was because I couldn't handle any manual labor. It was destroying. Every time I would do something, I'd end up hurting myself. It just didn't make sense. Like, it was like I was thinking, I'm not even that old. Like, I'm 40. Like, back then I was probably 37.
Yep.
I was like, you really? Like, my dad works till now. You know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
it's like, yeah, it didn't make sense. So as soon as we got to that stage and the body, it didn't even take long now. like probably 6 weeks, 6 weeks.
Yep.
I was like brand new. Everything
Yep.
felt good.
The key point is here, guys, that it's like this is what I envision for society. This is Project Function. I want to expand this to get it to more places to make it more broadly accepted and have more broad appeal so we can get society better, to get society to feel comfortable with going to work. I don't know. I enjoy work. My whole thing is I enjoy work. And I think a lot of times people don't enjoy work because it's like they're overwhelmed, their body hurts. They can't move. They can't do shit with their body. And when you can't do things with your body, you're gonna be like, well, I don't want to work. I'm too tired. You wake up in the morning, you're like, I'm tired. So you have to want to wake up and feel energized to want to tackle problems.
The key point, Maddie, is that people think they have to retire at some point. But the retirement itself is the problem because your body, I mean, technically, theoretically, your body, if you get the fluids flowing and all the rest of it, then it should be able to regenerate itself like you always talk about.
Yes.
But people don't understand that. They just think, I'm getting old, I'm getting to some stage, I've got to start looking at retirement, I'm at that age. That doesn't need to be the case, especially if people are doing functional patterns. They're doing it properly and doing it regularly. You don't have to train that much.
Yep.
That's the funny thing about
Bro,
FP.
Jesus. Yeah, you're just setting it up, bro. Because that's the biggest thing is that it's like, guys, if you mix all the training, like let's say if you have like plyometric training, weightlifting, fucking vestibular system training, stability training, agility training. If you mix that all in, if you understand what unifies the whole system, you don't have to do all these individual parts. You just cover it blap like that. It's just like quick. You can get most of your shit. This is the whole thing. You could literally go 3 months without training and you're not going to gain weight. You could go for months without training and just go to work if you need to. And the mechanisms that you learn in FP end up carrying over into everything else that you're doing in your life, and you don't lose anything. That's the whole idea. You could be like my brother, for example. My brother, he's like he'll do like handiwork. He has his own like properties and shit like that, and he does all his own handyman work or whatever.